sun in Aries, we picked up, I mean, for every planet and every sign, we picked out three themes
Right.
and then did the positive and negative polarity, which is the, my basic approach to everything. And another thing that I thought to mention right off the bat is if we just told somebody our approach, you take a theme about a planet and a sign, and then you split it into positive and negative versions. I think a lot of people would say, okay, well, if the positive version is hot, then the negative version is cold. Boom, I'm done. And they would be way off, and that's not at all what our text reads like. What we do instead is, if the positive version is hot, then the negative version is probably too hot.
Too hot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the negative effects of hotness.
Right.
The planet always has the same character in the sign, but it's whether or not that character or that thing produces a positive or a negative outcome. That's what we're talking about, everything. So for Sun in Aries, the first theme is like individualism.
Mm.
The positive version of it is, you're a great individual, you work really well by yourself. And the negative version of it is you're like too individual.
Mm.
So let me read these interpretations that we finalized and see if we remember anything interesting about how we got to this point.
Yeah.
So for a positive Aries sun, it says you're individualistic, protective of your freedom to be yourself, and pursue what interests you. And then for a negative sun in Aries, it's you're solo, you're too solo. Your need for freedom interferes with your cooperative partnerships and make you seem unconcerned with what others need.
So I wanted to ask you this as a side note. So Sun is exalted in Aries and it has resonance. How do you conceptualize the fact that we're giving it a negative interpretation?
It's true that you're not often going to see the negative effects of Aries come up in that many cases because the sun tends to be positive in Aries because, like you said, it's exalted. But we have to go to the whole background, the whole blueprint that we have from Vedic astrology, which is dividing signs into subsections. So you can differentiate degrees within signs. So the sun in Aries is not going to have the same dignity throughout the whole thing, throughout all of Aries. It will have different dignities at different degrees because there's different subsigns active in the different sections of Aries. So it's possible for the sun to be in Aries, but maybe be in a lot of Libra segments within Aries. And so then you would get the lowest possible dignity of the sun in Libra, which still isn't terribly low because it's still mainly in Aries, right? But it can still get down below average.
Right. So the D1 is showing us that it's exalted, but in all the other divisional charts, its dignity is going lower because it's in other signs.
Right.
Okay.
Unless it's lined up in a certain way where it's in Aries a lot, or it's in Aries and Leo, or it's in signs where it's really great.
Okay.
But I have a note here about something that you said during the editing.
Tell me. Remind me.
It says I kept cooperation. So you must have asked, like, why would you say something about cooperation?
Yeah.
This is in the negative effects of the sun, it's solo. Your need for freedom interfere with your cooperative partnerships. So you were saying, why would the sun has nothing to do with relationships, and Aries has nothing to do with relationships. So why are you talking about a negative effect on relationships? So I think here's where you do a thing that I call Tolkienizing.
Explain that.
Yeah. So to understand why I would say that, you need to know the technique that Tolkien used to write his stories. So you come up with places and characters, but not have any idea what they would do, how they would interact. He would just come up with a place, and the place maybe was mountainous or cold or something, and then a person maybe was rugged, or maybe the person was timid, whatever. Then he would just let those things play on the stage in his mind on their own. Like, just given the qualities that he ascribed to them, just he would let his brain figure out how they interact.
Okay.
That process is very good for astrology and interpretations, because that's what we have. We have like places that have certain characters, like Aries or Taurus or something. And then we have characters that have certain qualities, like the sun, the moon. And then what the brain needs to figure out is, how would this character interact with this place, or how would these two characters interact with each other in this place? So I think this is an example, like the sun has nothing to do with relationships. Aries has nothing to do with relationships, but they have to do with the opposite of relationships, which is independence, individuality. So an opposite thing will always affect its opposite.
Sorry, I was going to say because individuality without relationality then doesn't make sense. So yeah, it's becoming very
Yeah.
individualistic in a relational dynamic.
Yeah. We didn't really note this in the positive version,
No,
but it would have a positive effect on relationships, the sun in Aries.
right.
You know, it's the type of person that is fun to be with because they don't make you make many decisions. You know, the kind of
Yeah.
person that already kind of knows what they want to do and it's easy to be with them. You don't have to figure things out for them.
So yeah, like going to the restaurant and not knowing what to have for dinner and you're just taking 30 minutes just to order. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
it.
And then the other person just says, "Oh, get this. It's great." I mean, all the time in relationships, the partner's condition of, each partner's condition affects each other. So if you have a positive sun in Aries, the times when your partner is sad and depressed doesn't bring you down as hard. You remain able to be there for them and be strong for them because you have the positive sun in Aries. That sounds like the greatest boyfriend ever, the greatest husband ever.
Yeah.
You know, the guy who picks the restaurant, the guy who is the strong one in the family, and everybody else can be crying and falling apart, but this guy's got it together and he says, it's okay, don't worry. That makes sense because we're talking about the sun,
Mhm.
the male thing. In Aries, the most male sign.
Yes. Able to act as that stabilizing center.
Yeah.
And it's supported in Aries. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense to me. Yeah.
The second trait for sun in Aries is how you deal with decision making.
Right.
Because that's a very important thing about the sun is its clarity, and it can tell X from Y, A from B, left from right. And so it can make very sharp decisions. So if it's positive in Aries, then you have a very decisive nature. You'll be really self-confident and very confident in your decisions. That's what we mean by self-confident. A natural leader, the biggest thing for a leader is to make a decision.
Yeah.
Ambitious and unhesitating, you initiate without wait. That might have been your phrase. Sounds like Parisa.
Yeah.
You initiate without wait. Ambitious and unhesitating. So then the negative version of that, right, isn't, again, it's not like the opposite of hot is cold. So it isn't like, oh, you can't make a decision. It's that this decisiveness of you is just too much. It produces a negative effect. So we describe this as dominating. The need to assert yourself creates tension when you deal with peers or leaders. Over-centralizing responsibility in yourself due to lack of trust in the reliability of others.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad that you're emphasizing that note that when it's going to the negative end is not the opposite. It's just on the same spectrum going to the absolute extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just becoming domineering at this point. Yeah. And it can be so nuanced. Like, I hope my best friend doesn't mind saying this. Like, every time I talk to her on the phone, she has to be the first to hang up. She just has to do that initiation, even to that point. That's not domineering, but it's just, I know that's the sun in Aries quality. Even in
Yeah.
the smallest ways of life is showing up.
Yeah. A funny side note is there's actually a big cultural thing about that here in Japan. Who hangs up the phone first? If you're the one who makes the phone call, then I think it's the other person who has to hang up first. But if it's like a business call, the client has to be the one to hang up first.
Does Japan have a sun in Aries? Even considering the flag, that's a sun, right?
Yeah.
And just going back to that domineering aspect of it, would you say that sun in Aries can also overburden itself and burn itself out by, you know how some people are like, if you want to do something right, do it yourself.
Right.
They don't want to delegate responsibility, but then eventually they just burn themselves out.
Right.
It's like too much fire on the self.
Yeah, I think that's what we meant with over centralizing responsibility in
Right.
yourself
Right.
because you don't trust that other people can do it right.
Right. Right.
The third theme of Aries, Sun in Aries, is how it's not afraid. Right? Fear isn't really an issue. So that can either be positive or negative.
Mhm.
Like I know people, my brother-in-law
Mhm.
He's not afraid of anything, but he does a lot of crazy things.
So that's on the
Because,
negative
yeah, like on
spectrum.
the negative side,
And I remember something that you connected to that initially. I don't know, I don't remember if you kept it, but with this whole being direct, straightforward, and without fear, you had put the word clear. Did
yeah,
you end up keeping that?
I kept
Or
it.
can you explain that? Because I'm still a little
Yeah.
unclear about the clear.
So I think here too, I'm just doing the Tolkien thing of seeing in my brain how this person will
Mhm.
actually act in the world. Not just what their qualities are, but what are those qualities going to make them act like? So the qualities are they're not scared. So that means they don't hide anything. The positive
Mhm.
version, right? They don't feel like they have to hide anything. They don't feel like they have to be, they're not worried. Yeah, that's what happens when you're not afraid. You don't worry that much. So then they're not trying to protect things. So that means they're just like clear. They're
Right.
open. If they don't like it, they say, I don't like it. They show I don't like it. If they like it, they show they like it. If they want something, they do it. They show it. They do it. They're like kind of obvious people.
Mhm.
They're not these convoluted, tricky people where you have to figure out what they're really thinking and everything. They're just clear.
Yeah, that makes sense. Initially, when I saw it, I thought you were talking about fire, to like a fire sign, a fire planet. You're talking about illumination. So it's the path is illuminated, the action is clear. Like that's, but I understand better now how you explained it. Yeah,
Yeah, but the way you explained it too is also great.
the fire
Yeah.
element.
That's the mechanics of how the symbolisms are probably interacting at a very atomic level to produce
Okay,
these kind of bigger
okay.
outputs. And then, so yeah, the negative version is dangerous. You feel fearless and impervious, so you take action without risk assessment, and often winding up being overextended and dangerous.
Would you say that because like Mars in its own sign in Aries can be very reckless, but Sun has this sense of maturity in it. Do you think it can also become reckless with this danger or no?
So let's just imagine like a reckless dad versus a reckless teenage boy.
Mhm.
So, although on one hand, the Mars dangerousness
Mhm.
or recklessness of Mars is kind of more wild, like, whoa, cliff jumping,
Mhm.
like, why? Like, why are you driving your car so fast? But on the other hand, it's like, okay, it's only going to damage this one person. But the recklessness of an adult or the recklessness that can happen with the sun negatively in Aries, it doesn't look as extreme or wild on the surface,
Mhm.
but it tends to affect more people. So I think in the end, they tend to be pretty equal.
It's different context, but it's still reckless.
Yeah.
Okay. And before moving on away from Aries, what do you think about the digestion of Sun in Aries? The metabolism.
That's a
Got a
good,
lot of fire.
yeah, we didn't say anything about that.
No.
I guess if we were doing like a health focused
Yeah,
report,
because I know for Taurus, we talked about the heart, right? But then
yeah,
here, I was wondering their metabolism might be
because
quite
with
mighty.
Taurus also, like we're going to see, the health is a whole one of the three main themes.
Oh,
But
that's
here it's
true.
not really, one of the themes. But yeah,
Gotcha.
I think when you have sun in Aries, you get a person that just eats a lot.
It's
Well, they eat well, like I used to like eat like mountains of food. But then after hitting a certain age, the metabolism went into a different gear. And so with the sun in Aries, you would extend your warranty
right.
on your digestion. What do you think would be a negative version of that metabolism? What would be what would we write about the sun in Aries
And the
metabolism?
negative,
Yeah.
well, I mean, like just to use that concept, too much pitta, like acne and the rash and irritation, just these kinds of things I would imagine would be
Yeah,
a problem.
totally. I would I
Yeah.
would definitely go with that too. So I'm sure you would love to know what your true signs are and all the different facets and details that the True Signs Report would say about you and your birth chart. That is easy to get. Just go to my website, victorcara.com, click into the reading section, select the True Signs Report and any other reports you want to include, and then go ahead and order it. And I'll send it to you within a couple of days. All right, Sun in Taurus.
Yes.
The first of the three themes we have is about, what would I call it? I would say maybe like the firmness of it. The reason being is like the sun is just very constant and steady.
Mhm.
That's one of its primary characteristics. And Taurus, of course, is very fixed. It's fixed, it's earthy, so it's very solid. So the first theme that comes out is just the solidity, let's say. Positive variation of that, of solidity means like you can really rely on this person. And the negative version of it, it means you can't move this person. You can't change them. You can't reshape them. You can't alter their course.
Mhm.
So for the positive, we said you're reliable, stable, enduring, determined, responsible, and loyal. Yeah, those are all like important keywords actually, right? For the
Yeah.
stability in a positive way.
Yes.
And then the negative version is stubborn,
Mhm.
inflexible. Your commitment and loyalty becomes emotional immobility, making forgiveness very difficult for you. That sounds like Parisa, this emotional immobility. Do you remember if that was your phrase?
Yes.
My notes, I like the phrase emotional immobility a lot.
Yeah.
So then why emotional? So this could be the same question that we had about Sun and Aries. Emotions? You're talking about emotions? Why you say emotional immobility?
I was thinking about it from being a feminine sign, having that receptivity towards what? It's usually towards the other again, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So it's, I mean, Taurus is a Venus sign. So why
Right.
would we be surprised if a planet in Taurus has an effect on your emotionals? So can you explain or give me an example of what emotional immobility looks like?
Being unforgiving, like being very like you have a way of thinking and you have the sun there, so there's that sense of authority about this is what's right and wrong, and then there's that notion of loyalty. So now you step outside that boundary. I imagine this person has a hard time seeing both sides of the spectrum because they have a perspective and they're going to stick to that, and you have to yield. And what they're feeling has authority here because of the sun. So in that way, it becomes a little sticky, I'm feeling.
Yeah. Now, how about a positive version of emotional immobility? Did we mention it?
Yeah, I think being stable and responsible, because if we're talking about the relational dynamic, when you're responsible for someone, you care about how they feel.
Yeah, I was thinking it's in there implicitly and stable as well.
Mhm. Yes.
So, I mean, we could have explicitly said emotionally stable, but we mean more. We mean everything stable in general.
Yeah, that's what I really loved how you phrased that with the reliable, stable, enduring loyalty. All of it is because it describing environmental conditions and what could be happening inside of a person's head. So I really liked how it was all encompassing, the feeling that you get from it, very precise.
Great. Thank you. And then the second theme we get cool is how you cooperate.
Yeah, that's the one I was like, what? Tell me about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. So the positive negative here is in this one, it looks a little bit like hot and cold. Are you
Okay.
cooperative or are you uncooperative? But I think it's just the way that we word it. It looks like hot and cold, but it's actually, are you able to be committed in your partnerships and teams? Or look at the way we worded it. Are you over dedicated? Okay, let's read the whole thing.
Mhm.
So Sun and Taurus positive says you're cooperative, strongly committed to partnerships and teams, excellent as a team leader. So it's not like you're in these egalitarian relationships.
Mhm.
You're still in this leadership figure because it's the sun. We're talking about the sun. It's talking about how you're doing your leading, but you lead good in a group. And then the negative version of the same was uncooperative, over dedication, makes you very unwilling to compromise, adapt, or acknowledge other points of view. So really, even though it looked like we did a hot and cold mistake,
Mhm.
we didn't.
No. No, I think it's making a smooth transition on that spectrum because, and especially since we're talking about the sun from all planets. So it's like, is the authority being inclusive of other people and their interest? Are you being responsible in that sense? Or you're just blinded by your own light.
I'm trying to imagine, like, the other day I took a bike ride up to this place on the mountain by my house. Halfway up the mountain, there's this like sports field.
Okay.
So I went up there to see it. And in fact, it's a big baseball field, and there's just tons of baseball kids with their coaches. So I'm kind of imagining Sun and Taurus up there in the coaches.
Oh.
You know, a positive Sun and Taurus, what kind of a coach would they be? They're very dedicated to the team.
No.
So, you know, they're always there on time. They always put in the work that they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the kids like this person.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that the guy, like a lot of times kids like what a nice teacher or a nice coach because the coach or the teacher lets them do whatever. But that's not Sun and Taurus, positive Sun and Taurus. It's they're strict, but they're still likable. Now, negative Sun and Taurus, I would see it as this guy has his idea of the right way to swing a bat.
Hell yeah.
And you know, you're not allowed to do your own batting stance. You're not allowed to do your own type of swing. So you have to do it his way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes sense. And just to riff off of what you're saying here, another thing that I think kids don't realize that they like, but it's actually healthy for them, is to have set patterns. And I feel that Sun in Taurus creates set patterns. So as a coach, you always know what the expectations are. You don't have those weird fluctuations where you have to now overprove yourself or you're going to get over punished. And I think the negative spectrum of it would be that pattern sometimes needs to be a little flexible to accommodate human beings and situations, and then it might not be there. And then that feels like the child on the baseball field suffocating from the drills, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's great. And then we had this healthy, the issue of the Sun and Taurus, how it pertains to your health. Why is that a major thing? Because actually the Sun carries a lot of weight for affecting or describing your health. And so does Taurus.
Yeah.
Taurus basically is where you get all of your kapha, Ayurvedically speaking. So that means like all of your muscle and your good fat, the lubrication and the flexibility. That's all kapha.
Right.
And that relies heavily on Taurus. And then all of the like metabolic energy relies a lot on the Sun. So I felt like we had to mention something about health. So we said healthy if it's positive.
Yeah, it gives you a good, strong constitution, bodily constitution for sure. Yeah.
Physically beautiful and strong, mentally and emotionally creative. Mentally and emotionally creative. That's interesting that it's in there with healthy. So we should explain what that means.
Yeah.
What does beauty have to do with health? Actually, everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything.
In the Vedic text, isn't Surya also considered to be beautiful?
The Sun has kind of like this masculine beauty, which I think you don't find Mars described that way.
No.
And you don't find, of course, Saturn. Jupiter, you don't find Jupiter described that way. It's not that they're not good looking, but they're not described as being attractive. It's not like one of their key points. I guess it's because it's health, the relationship of health and beauty. That's what you said originally, right?
Yes.
And then that's the reason, actually. That's why all the true health really comes from Taurus. And that Taurus is also well known for being beautiful.
Right.
And you get this like strength. It's not just like a frail beauty. It's a strong beauty. And then what the heck am I meaning by mentally and emotionally creative? Beauty also has this biological root to it about reproduction and sexual attraction. When I say creativity, in my mind, creativity bridges this whole gap of like from artisticness to creating babies. It's all from the same astrological symbolism that you get all of those things, and it all comes from the same root.
Right.
Which I think has a lot to do with your health. It's kind of how much your lowest chakras are generating the energy for the rest of your body is going to keep you healthy, and it's also going to keep your reproductive system strong.
Yes.
So I think these people with Sun and Taurus, they have a strong reproductive system and a strong reproductive drive. That's for like the lower version of the creativity, and then you got like the middle version of creativity, which is like art,
Right.
and then the high creativity up here is like thought. And Sun and Taurus is favorable for all three.
Yeah, that makes sense because sign of Taurus is generative, Sun is generative. I mean, like Sun relative to Earth, everything is regenerating constantly because of the Sun, and that environment is generative. So creativity, yeah, everything that you're saying, when these two come together, it would give it that slant on every level in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have the negative version of this health thing, which was cardiac,
Oh, yeah.
susceptible to cardiovascular issues.
Yeah, can you say how you're so specific about that? I remember asking you a question about that. I know the sun represents the heart, but why would
Yeah.
it be cardiac issue?
Like you said, the sun represents the heart.
Mm.
And I think the synergy between the sun and Taurus is so strong because they both really rely on their stability. So the synergy between Sun and Taurus is so strong that a negative effect is going to tend to be blocked in most ways. Like it's going to be difficult to squeeze out a negative effect from the Sun and Taurus. So it's kind of like only comes out in the weakest spot. Like a crack in a dam will be the spot where the water comes through. So I think because the sun signifies the heart, that would be the weakest point. That's the thing that's really the most being focused on. If the sun is negative in Taurus, then you get a negative health effect. And what would it affect the most? You could, of course, just say, well, I guess maybe it could affect the reproductive system. Maybe it could affect the mental capacity or the artistic creativity, but really mostly, or the beauty or something. Maybe it could make like the skin too dry or too much acne or something. But really the most thing it's going to affect is your thumper.
Right. So the only way to decentralize such a person is to take the central part of their body out,
Yeah.
almost. The
Yeah.
heart,
I see what you're
literally in
saying.
the center too, going to all the periphery. So yeah, I was amazed at that interpretation when I was looking at it. I'm like, I get it, but this is so specific. I need to understand how he's framing it.
Also, you go into a zone when you write these things, you go in like a trance zone a little bit.
Yeah,
So sometimes I don't even know.
yeah.
Like I have to think about how am I going to answer this question because I can't remember
Yeah.
the thought process because it wasn't like I constructed it intellectually. It was more like it just kind of it pops out.
How often do you surprise yourself with that? Like you have that aha moment and you're like, holy crap, where did that come from? That's good.
Yeah, I'm not sure how often, but I would like it to be more often, of course, because
The more.
those are the great times. I kind of don't move on to the next, like for example, Sun and Taurus. I'll
Mhm.
sit there and work on it until I feel like, oh yeah, that's the magic. This
I
is the magic. This is the click. This is what works. And the reason why I'll like, do the editing and cut things and throw them on the floor and get rid of the garbage and everything. It's just because it's not clicking and it's not doing that aha moment and that magic.
Did you treat music that way too?
But music, I'm way more flexible
Flexible. Okay.
because I think music is a different thing. Like here, we're trying to like, it's in a sense, this is very clinical what we're doing. And we're trying to like really identify the most important facts. Because when we write this stuff, it's like, at least I'm thinking of hundreds of people that are going to read it
Yeah. Has to
about
make sense.
themselves. And it has to be true to each person.
Mhm.
Even though it's going to be very different for each person, they've got to be able to connect to the kernel of what the truth is of it. So it's really difficult to do this kind of creativity, writing astrological interpretations. But making music is so different. I don't want to be technical about how the music comes out. I just want it to come out. I can't have that same attitude towards my astrological writing.
No, I hear that because it has to resonate and make sense for others too. That's what the interpretation's for. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
So I'm sure you would love to know what your true signs are and all the different facets and details that the True Signs report would say about you and your birth chart. That is easy to get. Just go to my website, victorcara.com, click into the reading section, select the True Signs report and any other reports you want to include, and then go ahead and order it. And I'll send it to you within a couple of days. Okay, so we're going to do Sun in Gemini.
Sun in Gemini. That's my forte.
My notes here say that your contribution to Sun in Gemini is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, of course, we got 3 themes, positive, negative versions of each themes. Now we'll look at those 3 themes one at a time, starting with the first one, and we'll look at the positive and negative versions of those. So, for the positive Gemini, it says that you're expressive. And then we wrote, you're comfortable performing, entertaining, and talking or leading a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, the sun is just illuminating the self through the talkative aspect of it, right? So it's like being comfortable, confident. Yeah.
It's comfortable. I think we put in leading a conversation. That's a really good phrase because you got the sun, the leader, and you got the Gemini, the talker.
Yes.
Comfortable performing. That's interesting, right?
Yeah, you need to explain that one actually. What do you mean by performance?
Sun is the center of everything, right?
Right.
So sun always winds up being the king or the focus. Then if you put the sun in Gemini, then it tries to be the focus of conversation, or it tries to be the focus of people's enjoyment and happiness, pleasure. So it therefore those are the mechanics, the psychological mechanics, but the actual way that it looks in a person is they are happy, like entertaining. They're comfortable entertaining. They want to use words and jokes and puns and wittiness to make people feel at ease, feel comfortable, feel happy about interacting with them. They like to hold conversations. It's not like they like to dominate conversations, right? That's going to be the negative version of it. The positive version of it is they like to hold a conversation, like stabilize a conversation or be a pillar for conversation and interaction between things.
Right. I can attest to that. I like having gatherings and then I like my guests because you know how some people go into different groups and have their own conversation? Be able to go from this group to that group, mediate all the conversations. And I like everyone being very comfortable and just that multiplicity of dialogues. I love it. So yeah, that's a Gemini sun thing, I think, what you're describing too right now. Yeah.
Yeah, we should probably mention to the people that you are a late May person, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking with a Sun and Gemini native. Then the negative version of this is basically too centralized. I don't know if is that a clear way to put it?
Centralized in terms of taking like the authority over the conversation, right? Because of that sun factor there.
Right. Too much
Yes.
authority in conversation. So we express it as extroverted. That's our keyword. Obviously, extroverted is kind of maybe it's a neutral trait. I'm not sure if
Right.
it's inherently value positive or negative, but I'm using it in an inherently negative sense, like too extroverted.
Yes.
Feeling useless without an opportunity to perform and self-express. A negative sun in Gemini doesn't really let the other people have the spotlight at any time and doesn't let them be the joke tellers, doesn't let them be the ones that are making other people excited or happy, etc. It kind of obsessively monopolizes the focal point of interpersonal interactions.
Yes. Yeah, you can I feel that in a sense of explicitly, not now with age has gotten better, but when I was younger, being excluded from a conversation, I either had to find my opening in it or I would feel very uncomfortable. I would feel the exclusion in an unnatural way. So yeah, I can see how that's working out. Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to the second theme of
Okay.
Gemini, which is
Yes.
how you reveal information. So the first theme was more like how you interact with people. And then the second one is how you reveal information. So on the positive side, you're very honest. You reveal information very clearly and cleanly and accurately and efficiently. On the negative side, it's not that you don't reveal information or that you're hiding information. It's that it's just too easily revealed. You know, it's too blunt. It's too direct.
Is that the one that you put tactless?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So for the positive version, the keyword is honest. The text for that is unafraid to speak your mind, uninhibited, unfiltered, candid, and open. And my note here says you made a 24-karat gold contribution to this one. Unafraid to speak your mind. That's interesting how that comes from Sun in Gemini, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gemini isn't really a confident sign,
Right.
but the Sun is a confident planet, so you get confidence in speaking with the Sun in Gemini. A lot of very good actors, I find, have Sun in Gemini. Unafraid to speak your mind, uninhibited, unfiltered, candid, and open. It means you're just like candidly giving the info because you're not scared
Mm-hmm.
of giving the info, but it doesn't have the negative trait yet.
Right.
And so the negative trait is tactless. You're not scared enough, you know, you're not cautious. So bluntly, undiplomatically outspoken. So they're both outspoken, or they're both outspoken, right? Uninhibited. But one is just undiplomatic about it and blunt about it. And then I remember this, a lot of this is your sentence, or maybe the whole sentence. Assumed intellectual authority, evident in your choice of words and tones of voice.
Yeah, I want to go back. Actually, I want to ask you if you think this fits in the negative or the positive spectrum. For me, I feel like it fits in the positive. There's a sense of being unbiased in transmission of information. Like I've even noticed it for myself. I can take both sides and it really frustrates other people. And in my mind, I really don't have a side. I'm conveying what it might be about. So I feel like that can, relative to other people, that can become very frustrating and it can be a negative attribute. But I also think it has a positive attribute because you're holding both ideas, both sides.
Yeah, this could probably go in the second theme or the third theme. And it can go either on the positive side or the negative side because it's unbiased or objectivity. So you can see the validity of many subjective viewpoints because you haven't really welded yourself to one particular subjective viewpoint. So I think that's a positive trait. But then the same trait, if it's too much, it becomes a thing that you mentioned that it frustrates people because you seem wishy-washy or you seem non-committal or
Very,
like maybe even disloyal,
yeah,
right? Yeah, so
yes.
especially with Sun, maybe disloyal is a very good keyword here because the Sun has a lot to do with loyalty.
Mhm.
And since Gemini is so dual and flexible, a negative Sun in Gemini can come out as feeling disloyal. It's not really disloyal, but it
Mhm.
feels disloyal to other people because it doesn't commit itself entirely to one side of the info picture.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And then for the negative, I'm keep thinking of Trump in a sense of he talks with such authority, right? About some knowledge set, and then someone does a fact check, and then there's some discrepancy between. So yeah, that saying it with a lot of authority. I've noticed this in myself, especially in younger years too. And then afterwards, I'm like, it's not based on anything. Like I said it so confidently that it can actually be misleading. Yeah,
Yeah. Want to move to the third one?
let's do it.
Third theme is decisive versus reactive. So it's like how you decide your options. On the positive side, you're decisive. So it's clear perception and intellectual processes that allow for rapid and reasonable decision making. So that's interesting. The positive side, its lack of subjectivity gives it a very clear perception, and then that enables it to evaluate all these different points of view and all these different sources of information, and then be reasonable about how much validity it gives to which ones.
It's unattached to it.
Yeah, it's unattached. And I think this is another interesting application of the very crucial Gemini keyword of balance. Gemini is very balanced. It's very dexterous. And you get the sun here. The sun has to do with your decision making. So in a positive sense, you get a very balanced approach to decision making, which doesn't violate the idea of being non-committal.
Explain.
A person might think you have to make a decision to be 100% on or 100% off. But if you're a very accurate decision maker, you might see that you need to give 50% to this thing and 45% validity to that and 5% to this other thing. I find a lot of times people would ask me for readings about their careers and so forth because they can't make up their mind about which career to do. And every single time I get one of those readings, it's always dual signs, Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius, all over the place. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the answer to the question is because you're like this, because you're very dual, you're not supposed to make up your mind in such a cut and dry way, where it's just either you become a blacksmith or you become a leather maker. You know, a person like that, you have to realize, well, I should give a certain amount of my interest to blacksmithing and then another certain amount to leathersmithing.
Right. That's coming from the air quality too, right? That's in Gemini.
Yeah, Gemini is really the most like unpinned.
Unpinned, yeah.
Because it's got Mercury, first of all, which is so in the middle of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's got air, which is so everywhere. And then it's a dual sign, which is just trying to do a bunch of things, trying to be objective and spread out. So everything, all those eggs are in that basket.
Right.
Where you have 3 other dual signs, but they're not really quite as dual because they have other elements or other rulers. So yeah, it is kind of interesting when you take a planet like the sun, which is very fixed, and stick it in a very dual sign like Gemini.
Yes. And then in your calculations, do you take into consideration planetary friendship, like the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, neutral with Sun? So does that factor in or no?
Certainly.
It does. Okay.
You know, the basic rule is if it's in the same sign or more than 4 signs away on either side, then the relationship between the two gets worse. Otherwise, the relationship between the two gets better. And that's just one of the things that you have to factor in to figure out. I mean, that's really one of the reasons why people would buy a report rather than just doing it yourself to figure out your interpretations, because there's so many calculations involved to determine whether or not your particular sun in Gemini is positive or negative, or how much it's positive or negative.
Yes. It's a lot of calculations.
Yeah.
Done. You've done it. We don't have to do it.
Yeah. I don't even have to do it anymore because I taught my computer how to do it.
Even better.
Yeah. Okay, so the negative version of this decisiveness is I'm putting reactiveness. And we wrote overreacting to stimuli without thinking ahead affects your choice of words and actions. Yeah, that's Gemini. It also tends to get very stimulated. Overreactive because the sun is so decisive.
There can be an element of multitasking, but not doing it with mastery too, because of that. It's like your attention can spread. So you don't have a focal point. So even though the sun is there, it can still go that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. That's a good point. It can fit in this reactive thing. People have like the ADHD.
Yes.
So it could be, ADHD really can be overreactiveness because like something can attract your attention and then you react to it so much that you've changed your whole focus and you change everything you're doing to that.
Yes.
So I think we did good with the sun in Gemini.
Okay.
So I'm sure you would love to know what your true signs are and all the different facets and details that the True Signs report would say about you and your birth chart. That is easy to get. Just go to my website, victorcara.com, click into the reading section, select the True Signs report and any other reports you want to include, and then go ahead and order it. And I'll send it to you within a couple of days.
So we're getting to my favorite one because I was so confused about this one.
The Sun in Cancer's, the first theme is kind of privacy. So if it's positive Sun in Cancer, then you're very good with privacy. And if it's negative, then you're very not so good with privacy. So if you're very good with privacy, what does that mean? It means you use privacy to your advantage, or you use privacy well. So we described it as mysterious.
That's the one.
Oh yeah, this is the one.
This is the one. Oh, I was like, what do you mean mysterious? Yeah, you're gonna have to describe this to the viewers too, I think.
I think I kind of maybe explained it just now. You know, so it's really about privacy. I mean, Cancer is so private. And then you put the sun here, which is like so forthright.
Mm-hmm.
So the theme is definitely going to be about, are you able to deal with privacy effectively or not? If you can deal with privacy effectively, it means you use privacy to your advantage. So what would it mean? It means like able to keep a secret or to effectively hide your opinions, feelings, and plans. Like there's good purpose and use for not showing what you really think. It's very useful. People like me, we never do that. But I appreciate and I respect people that can really do that. That can like be political, be diplomatic. They keep their feelings private. They keep their opinions to themselves. And especially very, very useful for Sun in Cancer is they keep their plans to themselves. There's a lot of adages or proverbs in India for kings and politicians about how extremely crucial that is.
Right.
And when I say keeping it to yourself, it doesn't mean that you're not able to express it. It doesn't mean that you're afraid to express it. This is a positive Sun in Cancer. It means this is part of your strength, that you don't have to reveal. You can reveal whenever you want and to whomever you want. But you not, it's like impulsively or clumsily revealing your thoughts. So thus, you know, the whole picture of that, the way I see this person in my imagination is they're pretty mysterious. I can't really understand what they're going to do tomorrow. I can't really understand what they think of what I just said. So they maintain this air of mystery that's kind of attractive, like it's kind of charismatic. I want to know. It makes me want to know.
Okay. So this was my confusion because so the way that you're describing it right now, they appear mysterious to the other who's external to them because they can keep all of these factors, but they're not mysterious to themselves.
Yeah.
Because you know when we talk mystery is like I don't know how I feel. So it's not talk because that's how I took it the first time when I read it, or that they're being cryptic. And I thought that's more Scorpio quality, but that's not even what you mean. They just know what to show and how to keep it private when they need to.
Yeah.
But they know. But they know how they feel. Okay.
You're not mystified. I think if the word was mystified, then it would be what you're saying. Like, do you not know? You're not mystified, but you're mysterious. You keep other people mystified.
Right.
Also, I thought that's really interesting that what you mentioned about cryptic,
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of act it towards Scorpio. In order to make an interpretation, we have to first understand mechanics of what's actually happening chemically, so to speak, between the planet and the sign. And in order to do that, you have to know the atomics of what is the chemistry of this planet, what is the chemistry of this sign. So when you put these two molecules together, how do they react with each other? And then the interpretation that you give to somebody is the way that you verbalize that in the human language.
Right.
The mechanics of how planets interact with signs, when you dive into it, you notice that there's a lot of similarity between all the air signs. There's a lot of similarity between all the water signs, etc. If we have a trait here for Sun in Cancer, we could be pretty sure that we're going to have something pretty similar in Scorpio and Pisces
Right.
because the signs are similar because they share the same element.
But now I understand how you're meaning with mysterious, because they do understand what's happening within, but they can't, or they won't reveal it externally, not until they have to or want to.
Yeah, and I would say because it's Sun, it has a lot to do with power.
Yes.
So it would be they would reveal their plan when it's effective. When it's to their advantage to reveal the plan. They would reveal their feelings when it's going to have the impact that suits them. The negative version of the same thing is just secretive. It just means like you misjudge when you're supposed to give it. Basically, the Sun in Cancer is keeping all of its decisions, all of its feelings and opinions private until the right time, until the effective time. But if it's negative, you misjudge what that effective time is, and you don't really ever show them.
Could you misjudge and reveal it, illuminate it at the wrong time and the wrong place?
Yeah, I guess so too. I guess so, but because it's Cancer, it's going to err more towards the side of being overly private,
Pulling it in. Okay.
pulling it in too much. See, yeah, the positive version is you're pulling in your expressions wisely, effectively, and then the negative version of the same thing is you're just pulling them in too much.
So would you give that an emotional feel of like sitting there and brooding over a feeling and just keeping it on the inside too?
Yeah, and I think that will relate to the third theme as well.
Okay. Okay.
Second theme, Sun in Cancer has a lot of opposites going on because it's sun in the moon sign or fire in the water sign. So here you have an opposite of Sun being career and Cancer being the home. So when Sun in Cancer, something is really being said about how the person works versus how they live at home. If it is positive, then they feel at home working. So the way I described it is work free. You feel work free. This is one of those examples where I went all the way to the end of the chain of the effects of the whole thing. So because, in other words, you feel at home working, or you even work at home, like you don't feel a distinction between the home and the work. That's going to be a key focus of Sun in Cancer, no matter whether it's positive or negative. There's like a lack of distinction between home and work. If that's good, then it means you don't feel like you go to work.
Right.
You have a career that you deeply believe in. It doesn't feel like work. Cancer is also very, committed and emotional and everything. If you have a career that you can really put your heart into.
It's not an impersonal work. You just punch in and punch out. Can I do something here?
Sure.
I feel that when you put that there, career, a lot of people don't realize that the sun is related to career. They just attach that to the 10th house, right? But can I plug in this book of yours with symbols?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
And then check this out. Like talking about the keywords and stuff, this don't get insulted, but it has fallen apart. But the sun has that concept of career under it. And then when I saw your interpretation of it, I was like, at first I glitched out a little bit. Then I was like, that's right. The sun represents career here. So it makes sense because we're talking about sun in Cancer. Yeah.
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 Classically, if you open up a classical book, you usually say king, right? Sun is king.
Right. Yes.
That's the career.
Yes.
What are you the boss of?
Yeah, and the sun also represents that public space, but the public is being brought back into the domestic space again with Cancer. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a basic one too, is just that the sun is the daytime. So
right.
obviously it represents the daytime. And things that happen in the daytime, people go out, they do things that are in the public. Whereas
Yes.
Cancer and the moon, it's the nighttime things that you don't see. I'm happy that the book fell apart. I'm not happy that the glue didn't stick, but that means you must have read it a lot.
It's been 10 years of opening and closing. I think the best glue would have fallen apart by now.
So the negative version of being work free, the negative version of having the public career planet in the private domestic sign is that there's a thin, and now I put the keyword as domestic.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because that could be a good thing if someone's domestic.
But there's two options here. Without career or unable to separate it from home and homely subjects, we got like four things to talk about. The basic idea is there's a thin border between career and home, but that's also true for work free. But in this one, it's more of a case where the person comes home from work, they can't relax.
Perfect ingredients for divorce.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. The guy's always at work or the woman is always in her career. They never come home. Like maybe literally they never come home, but even figuratively, when they're home, they're not really there. The mind is still going on, always checking their email on the phone. They're always talking to somebody from the office or something. And then also that gives a lot of like inability to relax. It's going to give a lot of stress issues as well. So that's thin border between career and home in a negative way. Then it can also mean, so Sun in Cancer has this kind of two options. Maybe you just don't have a career.
Right.
But you have a domestic focus. That can be fine, that can be good, but in this sense, you have that kind of complex about it. Like you wanted a career. It's not like you wanted a domestic life. You wanted a career, but you can't have it. You feel bogged down by you just feel like unimportant. You're stuck in a house, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's one option. Or the other option is unable to separate it from the home or homely subjects. It's questionable about how negative this is. I find that Sun in Cancer can indicate careers that have to do with homely things. Childcare careers is an example of a homely subject. You could be like a nurse, or like you could work with people in old folks' homes.
Okay.
And it's like a homely thing where your business, your job is to take care of people's domestic stuff. You
I
could be a
see.
maid,
Right.
other things like that, or you may even be like a home designer. If the whole rest of the chart is doing other things, and making sure that you have a very strong career, then you could wind up being like a whole house builder, a house designer, an interior designer.
Right. So do you think that belongs in the negative spectrum though? Because some people enjoy that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes planets in signs don't have a very negative outcome,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Like I had questions often from people who get the reports and they happen to have Jupiter in the 12th house. Because that's an example of the reverse. This situation doesn't have that much of a very strong positive interpretation, even when it's positive. So they're confused about it. How come the negative and the positive looks pretty similar? Because the same thing can happen the other way. Sometimes a planet in a sign or a planet in a house just is at a disadvantage or is just at an advantage. And thus you might get things in the negative column of our interpretation that aren't that negative.
But how do you bring the clash of, even though that relationship between sun and moon is good, we still have like the masculine and the feminine coming, and there's a bit of a clash. There's a sense of softness in the feminine Cancer, and then the sun has that authoritarian thing happening there a little bit. So this is like an overwhelming mom.
Yeah, that's one thing. And you can see that dynamic is actually underpinning everything that we're talking about, actually.
Under everything. Okay.
Like, are you mysterious or are you secretive? If you're mysterious, then that masculinity is working well. The masculine principles are working well in a feminine way.
Right.
You don't have to always be the boss. You don't have to always be showing your power.
You can hold the emotion.
You can hold it in. Yeah, you can hold the emotion.
Right.
If it's working well, but if it's working wrong, then you just lost your power. And so you're secretive. You're afraid to do things. Same thing with the domestic or the work free. If this dynamic between male and female is working good, then you get a classically masculine principle, which is how you're doing your career, with a classically feminine principle, which is how you feel your life, the depth of how you feel things. So you get this career that you deeply believe in.
Right.
Versus if it's squashing the masculinity because the sun is negative in Cancer, then you just get a person that feels like I'm too domestic. I don't have enough masculine stuff going on in my life. I don't have enough of my own independence and career and so forth.
I know we kind of touched on this in the last video. So let's say someone has Sun in Cancer and they want to know like 3 factors that would make it lean more towards being negative, and 3 factors. I know more than 3 factors go into it, but if you could just name 3 that make it positive or negative.
The first thing is the dignity of the planet. You might think that's a given because the sun in Cancer must have a certain dignity, right? It doesn't. Because it's not a domicile or an exaltation or a fall, and therefore you don't know the relationship between the planets. But the other thing is, it matters what degree the sun is at in Cancer because of all the subdivisions. The sun in Cancer might have very positive subdivisions at some degrees in Cancer and very negative subdivisions, some degrees of Cancer. So you can't just hardwire the dignity of a planet into your interpretation of it in a sign. The second thing is the dignity of the Lord.
Right. So in this case, the moon.
Right. And then the third thing would be whether or not, what should I put as the third thing? One thing would just be the quality of the first Lord.
First Lord.
Maybe, because that just decides the quality overall of everything. The other thing that I thought of saying is whether or not there's a relationship formed between the host and the guest.
By aspect.
Yeah, by aspect, or it could be by mutual exchange or whatever.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah. Yeah, because this one's actually a little ambiguous in terms of if someone's looking at their chart and it's like, well, how do I know if this is positive or negative?
I mean, that's the thing that you have to study astrology for a long time. And you have to be a certain kind of a person to be able to, you have to have a certain kind of a Mercury that is willing to submit to all those rigorous examinations. I think we still need to do the third one. So this is how you deal with feelings.
Mm-hmm.
If it's positive, then you're empathetic, and if it's negative, then you're hot-tempered. You usually find this whenever you put a fire planet in a water sign. There's going to be some kind of effect similar to what we're going to talk about now. So if it's positive, if the sun in Cancer is positive, then the emotions are working really well. So we described it as being empathetic, intuitive, and emotionally intelligent. So why intelligent became a keyword here? Because Mercury is not involved. It's just the sun. It's because the sun is not intelligence, but something very similar to intelligence, which is decision making. So it's not exactly, the sun isn't really the mechanism that makes the decision. Mercury is. Mercury figures out what the decision is.
Right.
But it's the sun. The sun is the force that is the commitment. So a lot of times this happens. We make a decision about something, but we don't have enough power, commitment to stick to it or to do it or to enforce it on ourselves or on somebody else. I know I shouldn't eat a donut, but there's these donuts, So that's not an issue with Mercury. Mercury knows this is not healthy or this is not good for you or you're on a diet or something. Mercury knows that, but that's an issue with the sun. So if you get the sun positive, then your decisions tend to have commitment. They tend to have force. And if you make the sun negative, you tend to lack commitment and force in your decisions. Now, if you're putting a positive sun in Cancer, then that commitment is coming out of all of the Cancerian emotions, like emotionally positive decision making.
Right.
But I would rather say emotionally intelligent.
So they have like a high instead of IQ, EQ.
Yeah. Your commitment to your decisions is informed by your intuition, or in other words, your emotional EQ.
Can we say that in the same line of thinking, in the same breath, emotionally committed also? Because the sun has to do with that commitment. Cancer has a lot to do with internal emotions and happenings. So can they be emotionally committed in life to a partner, to work, whatever it is?
Yeah. And then the negative version of it is hot tempered. So here you get emotions overriding logic. Again, logic isn't really clinically the word,
Mhm.
but that's what it feels like when it's happening to you. Emotions override logic, excessive confidence in your own feelings and opinions, irritable passions.
So they can become irrational.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. That's the negative version of intuitive is irrational. You're just thinking with your feelings.
But how does the hot temperedness come out? Because the sun is pretty contained. It's like Mars would probably go
Yeah,
haywire.
Mars is debilitated in Cancer.
Yeah.
When we do the negative versions of Mars, you're going to see like some significantly negative things. But you do have the same basic thing because you have fire in a water sign. The sun is very contained. It's contained, but it's still male. So it's still like doing and deciding. It's active and it's ambitious. It's not as youthful about it as Mars is, but it's the same thing. So sun is actually passionate
Right.
because sun is commits. And then if you're putting it in Cancer in a negative way, then you're going to get like irritable passions.
So it's bringing the water of Cancer into its boiling points. That coolness that's in Cancer is going to get hot.
Yeah, we could even say that like for positive sun in Cancer, it's kind of a coolness.
Right.
Like in the slang version of the English word cool, like, oh, you're cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you don't lose your head.
Right.
Whereas if it's in a negative version, it's like you're hot tempered. You lose your head.
Right. That makes sense. Yes.
So I'm sure you would love to know what your true signs are and all the different facets and details that the True Signs Report would say about you and your birth chart. That is easy to get. Just go to my website, victorcara.com, click into the reading section, select the True Signs Report and any other reports you want to include, and then go ahead and order it. And I'll send it to you within a couple of days.
Now we're going into your domain.
I do have the sun in Leo, along with Mars and Mercury.
You have a party there.
Yeah, and that's my eighth house.
It's a mysterious party.
Yeah. Okay, so for the sun in Leo, well, it's probably going to be really nice because the sun owns Leo. So again, we're going to give negative traits to the sun in Leo, but it doesn't mean that they come up very often. So the first theme is, I would say, your leadership. The more positive the sun is in Leo, the more confident you are.
Definitely.
The less positive, it's not that you're weak, it's that you're too confident. So it's dominant, domineeringness.
Yes.
So to discuss the positive version a little bit, confidence means self-directed, self-assured charisma. So what do I mean by confidence? It means you don't need somebody else to tell you what to do. And self-assured, this is a big one. This is a big thing about Sun and Leo is they feel confident in themselves. And therefore they're like not self-doubting. And that goes a long way to being an attractive person, to being a charismatic person. First time I realized this was in like 1986 when I decided I was going to adopt skateboarder fashion.
Okay.
So it was absurd at the time. And we had these sneakers, Vans, which are now like, completely mainstream. But in those days, it was like, what is wrong with your shoes? I had checkerboards on my shoe. I just remember the first day that I wore my Vans and my Bermuda shorts to school, I was so not self-confident.
Not
Not
self-confident.
self-confident. I was so what do you call it? Self-conscious. I didn't feel good, so I wasn't very, walking around very charismatically. But then I realized, you know what? If I don't feel confident about this, then nobody else is going to feel confident about it. I'm going to project my lack of self-confidence, and it's going to make it look bad.
Right.
So then from that point on, I was just like, yeah, that's right. These are my shoes. These are my shorts. What's wrong with you? What are you doing? You still got some 70s era shit on, And
Yeah.
that makes the whole difference. A Leo sun is actually typically quite an attractive person. It's not necessarily because they look beautiful or something. It's just because they're confident about themselves.
With Sun in Leo, that idea of being self-governed can also go under this.
Yes. Like I would say that's kind of self-directed, right?
Yes. No one can tell them that this is how it's got to be done. They know. They've decided to have a sense of clarity about how they're going to perform it, do it, be it.
The way you just said that self-governed thing is nobody can tell them. The more that the sun is not doing great in Leo, the more that would be the primary thing you feel like this person just doesn't listen to me. Also, people shouldn't think like either I have a positive sun or I have a negative sun. Our positivity and negativity of our planets is somewhere on a spectrum between those two binary poles.
Yes.
So it's not that anybody is not going to have any negative traits of a planet and a sign. It's just which ones do you have more of? Like if you have a very positive sun in Leo, then you mostly have the positive qualities and you just have a little bit of the negative qualities.
Right.
So that one we expressed as being dominant. And then we say unable to follow others, unable to follow others. Positive sun in Leo doesn't show that trait too much because it kind of looks at other people. How do they do it? Maybe I want to do it that way. But the thing about Sun and Leo is it would never feel like a follower. Like it would always take the other person's input, make it its own, and then express it.
Yes.
Yeah, so if it's negative, then they're dominant, unable to follow others, and intolerant of small flaws in leaders and peers. This is an interesting new trait. Sun in Leo is very sensitive to leadership.
Yes.
So it tends to be the leader. But in the cases where it has to follow, you better be a damn good leader.
Yes.
Because the Sun in Leo knows how to be a leader and knows what a leader is supposed to do. And if you're not doing it, it's not going to follow. So if that becomes overwhelming, if it becomes excessive, the more the sun becomes negative, they're just hypersensitive, hypercritical of other authorities other than themselves.
And one thing I've noticed, a favorite word, when it's in the negative spectrum, calling people incompetent, because I know a number of Sun and Libra, Sun and Leo people, and they get irritated by the incompetence of people who want to lead and they have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I have this a lot with teaching.
How so?
I get very disturbed with people who are teachers that don't know how to teach.
All right.
Because in my chart, not only do I have Sun and Leo, but I have a lot of Jupiter. But that's a good example of how you can take a planet and a sign, and then you have to also scope that into a larger picture of the other things in the chart to really understand the purpose.
Very true, yes.
Second theme of Leo, Sun in Leo. This is how you make decisions. Obviously, because the sun is the decider, because it's the king. So, positively speaking, you're decisive, and negatively speaking, you're rash. So, what's the difference? Well, decisive is you make good decisions, you make them clear, right? Comfortable with leadership and the responsibility of decision making clear and direct. Yeah, this was actually when I was living in a temple, in a Hare Krishna temple. There's a lot of leadership issues there going on because everything's very hierarchical. So Somebody was advising me how to be a leader or something, and they said, leadership is just decision making. That's all it is.
Mhm.
And that stuck with me as actually being true. It seems to actually be very true. Leadership is mostly just the fact that decision making is very stressful,
Very, yeah,
and most people want somebody else to do it.
yeah,
Somebody like me can't really relate to that because I have Sun in Leo, right? I like to make decisions. And that's the thing of a positive Sun in Leo is you're comfortable with that responsibility. And therefore, because you're comfortable with the responsibility of being the one who decided, therefore you're comfortable being a leader.
right.
And then also clear and direct. Like when a positive Sun in Leo makes a decision, it just makes it clearly. It doesn't equivocate or it doesn't hedge the bets.
Mhm.
It feels confident about its decision, so it doesn't feel any need to like beat around the bush or anything. And the negative is it's too much. It's just too decisive. So we said rash. And then too all in.
Right.
Overcommitment without patient evaluation. Getting in over your head with responsibilities. This is also me.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Most people are not, nobody really is 100% positive or negative. So you're going to see some amount of positive, some amount of negative. Yeah, it's just like that. You just love making decisions so much that you just make them.
Yeah, one thing I've seen with Leos, they're overburdened too a lot by taking on the decision. And then I have seen them get to a point where it's all hands off because it was too much. Too much came crashing down on them because they were making decision for other people, which has consequences. And then they have to take the responsibility of that later too. It was just too much.
Yeah, that's happened to me all the time as well. That happens to me constantly. That's what I express as getting in over your head with responsibilities. You just get so burdened. Yeah, I think one thing that the Sun in Leo can do negatively is make you forget how difficult it is to be a leader. You just think it's fun. It just feels natural. It feels fun.
Mhm.
Then all of a sudden you have all these people relying on you to make their decisions or like relying on you to be their foundation and stuff, and you just can't deal with it.
Yeah, because I think sometimes people forget too that Sun in Leo is not just about making decisions for yourself, is a king in the kingdom. So it's reliance of other people on the individual too. And that's what's making it burdensome sometimes too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the third theme of Sun in Leo is, I would say, the fixedness of it or the loyalty of it. So if it's positive, then it's very loyal. And if it's negative, then it's stubborn. It's too
Right.
loyal, it won't change. Loyal, we said stable, reliable, responsible. Yeah, those are very classic, simple, clear, positive Sun and Leo traits.
And it's pretty cool because the sun also has, like, sun of Leo has that fixed nature, but the sun's also very reliable, consistent, rise at the same place, set at the same place, same day of the year. So yeah, so you bring them together, loyalty is very strong.
Yeah, if people haven't studied astronomy, they might not realize the source of a lot of the astrological traits that
Mhm.
planets have, but the sun is one of the only the sun and moon never change their speed.
Yes.
And then but the moon is obviously not going to be associated with stability because it's constantly changing its shape.
Mhm.
So really the sun becomes that one figure, symbolically speaking, that is the most reliable. Sun and Leo people, they'll show up when they said they were going to show up.
Yeah, very responsible. And I was going to say, I lived in a building for 8 years. I was on the 14th floor and the sunrise was in front of me. So in that 8 years, I learned where the sun was setting, like each day, so consistently every year, year after year. So yeah, it's extreme. You just know they show up.
And everybody else can base everything on the sun's consistency,
Yes. They can orbit it and they get their sense of consistency from it. Yes.
right? It's just like the way we are. Our whole day, tempo of the day, tempo of the year. Our consistency in our life comes from the sun's consistency.
Yes.
Okay, so if it's negative, however, the loyalty is just too much. It becomes a stubbornness, inflexible, unwilling to try alternatives, unadaptive.
Hmm.
A lot of times what happens with Sun and Leo when it doesn't go well, you make a decision and you give your everything, you commit yourself to the decision and it doesn't go right. Just because
Hmm.
sometimes it's a wrong decision or sometimes there was no good decision. Stuff doesn't go right. But then Leo gets so especially the more negative it is, Sun and Leo, it gets so upset that the
Hmm.
decision wasn't right, that it keeps trying to make the decision right. It's still so loyal, that it just keeps banging its head against the same wall rather than just think, I made a wrong choice. I made a wrong decision. Let me go back. Let me adapt. Let me change my decision. So Leo suns, they're not very adaptive. And the more negative it is, the more troublesome that becomes.
Right.
Some people love alternatives. If it's a negative sun in Leo, it just doesn't like alternatives. More
Right.
alternatives there are, or it feels uncomfortable.
How much of it do you think is also stemming from, because you can have confidence and then you can have overconfidence. So that's kind of moving to the negative spectrum. A lot of people will say, you know what, my primary plan, this is my plan A, but I do have plan B in my back pocket just in case. But when there's that overconfidence too, they're the people like, there's no such thing as plan B. There's only plan A.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So they can all weave into each other too, all these negatives and positive, and then create different kind of outcomes too.
Yeah. And in a tree, there's one trunk, it produces various branches, and then those branches make more branches, but there's really one trunk. Same thing with these interpretations. There's one thing, but it's so possible to express that one thing about Sun
Mhm.
in Leo or Sun in Gemini or anything in a human language with just one word, that we kind of have to break it apart into different themes, three themes, a positive and negative, and then give words, a whole bunch of words describing each. And then you can kind of get a sense of what that one thing it
Right.
really is. But because it's all really one thing in the bottom, there's a lot of bleed and interplay between all
Mhm.
the different themes.
Mhm. And talking about that, if I may, I like to pick your brain for a second because the primary key word for the sun is soul, and then we have consciousness, right? Now we put the sun in its own sign. How do you say these two are working themselves out in the sign of Leo?
It's interesting. So it's like self-confidence. There's a tendency to put those words together and think this is a spiritual person.
Mm.
If we say something like you're a very spiritual person, who knows how people are going to interpret that?
Mhm.
Somebody might say, no, I don't like religion. But that's not even really what we meant.
Right.
So it might be more relevant to more people to express the deeper thing that's going on. The soul is the self. It's just a religious sounding word for self. The sun is the self, and Leo is the sun's domain. So Leo is very self-oriented. So we're putting the symbol of the self in the sign of the self. The person's going to have a lot of interest in the self. Now,
Mm.
if they have maybe a lot of ninth house or a lot of Jupiter or something, or whatever, a lot of eighth house, a lot of 12th house, then maybe that makes them, in fact, a very spiritual person, and Leo contributes to that.
Right.
Otherwise, in other conditions, then they would just be very interested in themselves, which would come out positively as being very self-confident, self-assured, self-governed, self-directed. It could come out negatively as being, just intolerant of others.
So self-consciousness, not like I'm self-conscious, but there's consciousness of self instead of self-ignorance, is illuminating the self.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it.
Okay.
So I'm sure you would love to know what your true signs are and all the different facets and details that the True Signs Report would say about you and your birth chart. That is easy to get. Just go to my website, victorcara.com, click into the reading section, select the True Signs Report and any other reports you want to include, and then go ahead and order it. And I'll send it to you within a couple of days. Okay, we got Sun in Virgo.
Yes.
What are the three themes? Well, the first theme is dealing with the Sun being very confident, but Virgo being very cautious. On the positive side, we wrote, you're cautious. Well-prepared, thoroughly researched, organized plans and decisions. So then the opposite of that, the negative version of that would be timid.
Right.
So that's like caution working in a negative way. Hesitation to act without lengthy preparation causes you to miss many opportunities. I have a note here that the reason for the timidity is the meticulousness. So it's like people that are worried that they're not prepared enough.
Yes.
So then they delay, and then that causes them to miss the train, or they miss the boat, or they miss the opportunity. It's hard for people with negative Virgo suns to realize that it's okay to run a little risk.
Over-analysis to paralysis too, right?
Yeah, that's a good phrase. Over-analysis paralysis.
Yes.
We should re-edit this and put that in there. A good thing to also advise people with negative Virgo suns is it's okay to learn by doing. You can learn by your mistakes. As you're doing them, it's okay. Like there's no need to expect everybody to be perfect the first time.
And with the sun there that always wants to be decisive and make decisions, that could be burdensome too, because there's so many details to decide about. So that's overwhelming too with this placement, Sun in Virgo.
Yeah. Then Sun in Virgo will also affect how organized you are, simply because that's what Virgo is really all about. And then the Sun also, it's bright and it's clarifying. And so it tends to be helpful towards organization because like when you turn on the light, then you can see the details. So positive Sun in Virgo, you're very organized. Negative Sun in Virgo, you're just exacting. For organized, we wrote efficient, detailed, able to manage and organize others.
Right.
And for exacting, we wrote meticulously demanding, lost of the forest by obsession with the trees.
I think it's pretty clear when it comes to this organizational aspect and the leadership of the sun. So they can organize other people. But when it comes to the negative traits, how do you describe the sun missing the whole picture by getting too involved with the trees?
The sun is bright and Virgo has a lot of detail. So the sun in Virgo puts a lot of brightness into the detail. It's just like when you zoom in too far in a picture. You ever play the game WarioWare? You know, they had this game where you would zoom, this picture would start all zoomed in, and then it would zoom out, and the first person to be able to guess correctly what it was won the game. So I think with Sun in Virgo is that people are like really zoomed in, and then you can't tell, like, is this a zebra or is it a comb or what is it? You know for sure there's a black pixel at this coordinates and a white pixel at that coordinates. But the meaning of it and the purpose of it and the bigger picture that it's in got lost because you're hyperfixated on small details. I feel like negative Sun in Virgo is classic modern psychological problems. Like the modern trend is very focused on the problems of ADHD and OCD. And I feel like negative Virgo depicts a lot of those traits.
So would you say that with this kind of the negative trait of the sun, we're talking about a person who can lose perspective too, right? Just overwhelmed with the details again.
Yeah.
Right.
And also that's how it would affect their leadership. Like if it's positive, then they're able to organize others. If it's negative, that's what I mean by meticulously demanding. So it's like the person, you're working for this person, and they just insist that you capitalize such and such in your script. It's just so annoying that you have to pay so much attention to the fact that you capitalize whatever letter, or you follow some obscure rule that it drains your creativity, etc. Or it's the boss that just like cares so much how you look, or whether you're wearing your tie correctly, or whether you're wearing your hair the right way. Like these points aren't important, but the leader is focusing on them as if they're important. It becomes really a burden to the follower, and they're not able to do the important stuff.
And do you think this is where that negative reputation of Virgo as being nitpicky is coming from, as a stereotype?
Definitely.
And then to get a little Virgo like here with the details, the ruler is Mercury, so this is Mercury sign, and it's more democratic in the way that it deals with organization of, let's say, groups. And then you have Sun, which is more monarchical, it's about top to bottom kind of organization. So how would they organize people? How do you envision that or see that? How Sun in Virgo organizes people?
So if it's positive, it's a very good person, like a very good leader. Like they empower the people that they're leading. They're going to make sure that the other employees there have their responsibilities that they are in charge of, and that they get respect for, and that they get bonuses for if they do well. So it's hierarchical in a democratic way, like it's spreading out power through a hierarchy. That's how the democraticness of Mercury works with the sun positively.
Okay,
But negatively, you see, it just squashes the democraticness.
right. Sun's overruling, overpowering there.
Yeah, it's over insistent on you following some obscure rule or you're obeying something precisely.
Yes. Okay. Makes sense to me.
And then the third trait was, let's say, the hardiness. So if Sun in Virgo is positive, you're very hardy, you're very healthy. And if it's negative, you're very fragile. So physical and emotional. But mostly if it's positive, you get the physical variation. And if it's negative, you get the emotional.
I see.
A positive Sun in Virgo is healthy by nature. It has a natural sense for like what's healthy.
Right.
It keeps itself healthy naturally. So it's also Sun in Virgo works well as a healthcare expert. Like they can take care of other people's health very well. Doctors, nurses, whatever. Pharmaceutical people inventing medicine, stuff like that. Or, it can even just come down to cooking because food is also medicine. They can be good cooks, but it wouldn't be like the flashy kind of cooking. It would be the healthy kind of cooking.
More practical.
Yeah. Whereas if it's negative, then the opposite thing, you're not very hardy, you're not very sturdy.
Okay.
So you can get easily sick, but mostly it comes out in emotionally fragile. Because there's so much sensitivity else with the other themes going on now. They're so exact, so sensitive to if this detail is right or that detail is right. Then things that appear little to other people seem big to you.
Right.
So what seems like it's just a small little bump feels like a huge punch. So you feel it says easily hurt, insulted, and discouraged.
Could we call that hypersensitivity?
Hypersensitivity. Yeah, that fits very well with the whole idea of negative Sun in Virgo. It's just hypersensitivity in general. So there's also emotional hypersensitivity. I found that these people, because of the hypersensitivity, they get out of friendships. They drop their commitments. They drop their friendships on what appears to be something small.
The detail.
Because some detail wasn't right, but that detail was very meaningful to the Virgo Sun person. But the other people weren't aware of it.
Right. Yes. Can I go back to the positive aspect of it and a word that you use? When I think hardy, I think about Taurus. When I think about Virgo, I think about this fine line of balance that most people would miss in terms of nutrition and health, just to keep the equilibrium of the body. But Virgo Sun, if it's positive, is able to do that. Whereas I feel like a hardy constitution is like, just can eat anything and they just like, I don't know. Am I overpicking on the word right now? Like,
Are you a Virgo Sun?
no, a Mercury sign, but not Virgo.
Well, it's natural that there's going to be a similarity between the Sun in Taurus and the Sun in Virgo, because in both cases the Sun is in Earth signs.
And they both have to do with health.
Right? If we're talking about health and hardiness, then it makes sense that they're both Earth signs. But like you said, Taurus is a fixed Earth sign, so it really, the word hardy is really in the dictionary next to the picture of Taurus. I mean, just think of a bull also.
Hardy, yeah.
Whereas with Virgo, it's not fixed. It's not a fixed sign. It's a dual sign. But like you said, it's more like about balancing the health. So I agree. It's in Taurus, it's more like you could eat anything, you could do anything, you're just so damn healthy. Whereas in Virgos, you're healthy because you're balanced. You know how to stay healthy. You know how to avoid the things that make you unhealthy. So maybe hardy is not the right word. In fact, it's not in the actual text itself. We didn't put the word hardy in the text itself. I just used it today. But I think the end result of both of them is, you're very healthy.
And do you think the connotation of health or that symbol is coming into Virgo because it's an earth sign? Because that was always, when I was learning astrology, to me, that was always so puzzling. Why is Virgo related to health? Capricorn's an earth sign, but is not related to health. What is it about Virgo that makes it related to health?
So Mercury is very doctory.
Right.
Think about the symbol of Mercury is the Hermes thing. So the reason why Mercury is doctors is because doctors are scientists. Doctors are very learned people. They have to know how the machine works, how the body works. Mercury is what's responsible for intelligence. Classically, doctors, scientists, etc., are intelligent. So Mercury is a doctor. Then Mercury's earth sign is positive for health. And that's in the symbolism that was designed for Mercury. Generally, we just say it's Virgo, a virgin, a young girl. But also she's got this conspicuous thing that she's carrying wheat.
Right.
And that's indicating that she knows what makes you healthy.
And in the Western astrology, the symbolism of Virgo is related to fertility. Do we have that connotation in Vedic astrology too, or no? Because I know health could take it to fertility.
Mercury is not very sexual.
No.
But, it will become, sexuality will become more issues if you're putting sexual planets in Virgo.
Right.
So I would expect to see something about it with Venus or Mars or even Moon could potentially come up with that. But with Sun. So I'm sure you would love to know what your true signs are and all the different facets and details that the True Signs Report would say about you and your birth chart. That is easy to get. Just go to my website, vicdecara.com, click into the reading section, select the True Signs Report and any other reports you want to include, and then go ahead and order it. And I'll send it to you within a couple of days. Sun in Libra.
Debilitation.
It's going to affect how you make decisions. This is one of the big things. If Sun is positive in Libra, we're put on the brakes, right? What do you mean if Sun is positive in Libra? Isn't it debilitated in Libra? We had the same discussion when we talked about Sun in Aries, where it's exalted. So depending on the degree that it's at in Libra, it might have very good or very bad subsigns. So it's possible for the Sun to be in Libra and actually have a pretty good dignity.
Yes.
So we have to still describe both the positive and the negative variants of your decision making. Positive variant is you're very fair. And the negative variant is indecisive. So the connection between those two might not be obvious at first, but what I mean is if you're very fair, then you're looking at many points of view. You're looking at things from many different ways. In your decision-making process, you're open-minded. And if that goes haywire, then you just can't make a conclusion. You're just open to so many ideas. Everything seems like it's maybe bad, or everything seems like it's okay, or everything seems like it's good. You can't pick one over the other.
Yeah.
So for fair, we said egalitarian. That's a huge positive trait of Sun in Libra. Very egalitarian, very just, like justice-oriented, unbiased, alert, measured, and intelligent decision-making. And then negative, indecisive, unable to commit to one option, unable to narrow the options down.
I feel like for both the positive and the negative, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of it is coming from that confident self component of the Sun. Like a person, a leader has to be very confident to be able to be egalitarian and take multitude viewpoints into consideration and still lead. And then when you don't have that confidence, you're indecisive. You're actually looking to the group to make the decision.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, ready for the next one?
Yes.
So the next thing of Sun in Libra, I think, is your perceptivity. Why would that be an issue? It's because Venus is air sign.
Right.
And the Sun is in Venus's air sign, so there's a lot of illumination possible for the senses because the air and fire can work really good together.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have a lot of perceptivity, or you can be very hypersensitive.
Right.
For perceptivity, we wrote refined. So like the perception is accurate. It's refined. They know the difference between C sharp that's in tune and C sharp that's out of tune. Or you could almost say they know the difference between a C sharp and a D flat.
I don't know what that means, but I'll take your word.
A C sharp and a D flat are the same note.
I see. Okay.
So refined, like perceptive, aware, like they're very aware of what's going on. Good sight, good hearing, good suprasensory awareness too. Like they're so tuned, they're attuned to the environment, they're perceptive to the environment. So there's a lot of intuitive things going on that type of intuition, which is that background intelligence processing, which putting two and two together in the subconscious.
Right. Because the sun is coming there creating that awareness.
Yeah, it's brightening the senses.
Right.
So that's also why you have a good vision, usually Sun in Libra, positive Sun in Libra, good vision, good hearing.
And Libra being, like you said, the air sign, so it's making them aware of motion and movements. That's part of the perception. But could we also say, because the ruler, we're also talking about Venus, which has to do with the five senses, can that be a factor in the sign too? Or is that stretching it?
No, that's it. So the good sight, good eyes, good hearing, good ears. Now on the negative side, if you're too perceptive, so it's like over aware of fine details, that makes you irritable.
Right.
Therefore, easily annoyed, irritated, and insulted. Identity is too easily swayed by public opinion. So that's kind of a different theme. But let's tackle the first theme first.
Okay.
Therefore, easily annoyed, irritated, insulted. So they're like sensitive. If something is too loud, it really bothers them. If something is too quiet, it annoys them. This is, again, also like similar to OCD. It's that hypersensitivity, the kids that have to wear the mufflers on their ears because if something is too loud, it really, really annoys them. Or they wear the glasses because sometimes it's just too bright. Could be traced to a negative Sun in Libra. Just so attentive to how bright or how quiet or how loud something is, how smelly it is. They have strong preferences about smell and they can't stand certain smells. They don't want to be within 200 yards of somebody smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And it's like you said, that similarity with Virgo, that kind of hypersensitivity. But I feel like, sorry, I feel like in Virgo, that hypersensitivity is coming from maybe wanting things to be very organized and methodically done. And then in Libra, you want to balance. When things become unbalanced, the person also loses their balance here. Could we say that?
Yeah, I think also you can say with Virgo, like you said, the people are very interested. They're very obsessed with the details, like more conceptual details.
Right.
Or organizational details, like if this fits with that, like if these things go together, that kind of details. Libra perceptivity is more about sensual details, sensory details. How bright it is, how dark it is, how if it smells like this or that, how loud it is, how quiet it is, how sharp the sound is, how bassy the sound is. And the second part was something interesting or kind of new. Identity is too easily swayed by public opinion. So that's one of the things is the identity is going to get affected if the Sun is in Libra. We didn't really put a positive version of it. It's not really like Sun in Libra, even if it's positive, it's going to make you very self-confident or something. But if it's negative, it does make you very unsure of yourself. We look to the external world to define ourselves. But there's a certain amount of that which is just natural and normal. But if Libra is negative, if the Sun is negative in Libra, it's beyond normal. Like they really are looking for others to explain to them who and what they are.
Could we say the consciousness of the sun and that self symbolism is going to conscientiousness and self-consciousness too, because of how they're being perceived by the other.
Yeah.
And have you seen this in Libras? There can be, when it goes to the negative side, I feel it's stemming from this. There can be a sense of, maybe I'm terming it in the wrong way here, but there can be a bit of a vanity, people pleasing in a sense, not expressing who the person themselves, who they are, rather how they're expected to behave or to be perceived in that moment.
Yeah. I've noticed that. So I've noticed that in that they change a lot
Right.
per situation. Like, I think myself, mostly, I'm pretty much basically the same person with anybody. But there's another type of template of person that's a very different person contextually. They behave very different contextually. So I've noticed that with Sun and Libras, there's a vast difference in how they
Right.
behave with person A and person B.
And maybe that's the stereotype reputation of kind of being flip-floppy and or being indecisive. People say that a lot about Sun in Libra. Maybe it's coming from this because they're going with what's expected of them in that moment rather than who the self is.
Yeah. I guess it's a good thing to be aware of other people,
Hmm.
right? It's positive. Positive Sun and Libra is very aware of others in a good sense. Like they keep other people on their mind.
Yes.
But then if it just goes too far, then they're so aware of other people that the other person's opinion becomes more important than their own to an unhealthy extent.
Right.
Okay, then the third thing, it doesn't really seem to be matched up. I mean, the positive version, we wrote mercantile,
Hmm.
and the negative version, we wrote anti-authority.
Yes.
It doesn't really seem to be on the same polarity.
But it will be in a second.
Yeah.
I don't, if you go to the marketplace, you have to have mutual agreements all the time. Eventually, the bottom line is, even if we disagree, we're going to agree that we disagree so that we get this deal through somehow. But if you come in with what you think is the rule of law is, what's just, and you can't compromise, then that's a negative sun coming in, even to the marketplace in that context too. It connects. It connects.
That is brilliant. You said when you go to the market, it's actually about negotiation, right?
Right. You bring a sheep, I bring something else. We have to agree at some point what the value of your thing is and my thing is, right? You can't overvalue yours and I can't overvalue mine.
Right. So I guess you found it. It's the theme is negotiations.
Right.
Yeah, I think with the positive Libra, they're very good at negotiating. Positive Sun and Libra, they're very good at negotiating. So they're good with markets and selling and money. Negative Sun and Libra, they're not very good with negotiating. So they don't like people telling them things. They don't want to compromise with people. They don't want to cooperate with people. Usually that would affect how they deal with leaders and bosses.
Right.
So for mercantile, it says intelligent purchases, affinity for money and business.
Hmm.
So that's one of the things that people don't often remember about Venus. Venus and Mercury are very similar. So they both have to do a lot with mercantilism, trading. But Venus is more like the one that decides on the value of something, what it's worth. Maybe Mercury knows the market value and everything, but Venus is more about what this thing is worth. So Sun and Libra people kind of assess the value of things well.
To use Karl Marx, Venus is the use value and then Mercury is like the exchange value.
Yeah. In my experience, it's not the case that this trait becomes negative when the sun is negative in Libra. It just kind of stays there. It just kind of stays there. You know, it doesn't really redeem anything else, become something great, but it doesn't go away. But what you do see is this other thing. It's anti-authority, intolerant of minor flaws in bosses and leaders, inability to work under orders.
Right.
Actually, we said this with Mercury and with Sun in Virgo. It's amazing how similar they are. Sun in Virgo or Sun in Libra. Surprising how similar they are, but it's because Venus and Mercury are so similar.
Yes.
It's like a democracy place. Libra, the sign, is very democratic, but the planet Sun is very monarchical.
Hmm.
So here's where that comes up. Negative sun in Libra doesn't think kindly of leaders, but usually out of like a vanity of they're not as good of a leader as I would be. So they're pretty nitpicky and they get annoyed with the person that told them what to do.
Yes.
They assume that they know how to do it better.
Yes.
And so they just do it their way.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for Sun in Libra.
That's it? Okay. Makes me sad every time we get to an end of a sign.
So I'm sure you would love to know what your true signs are and all the different facets and details that the True Signs Report would say about you and your birth chart. That is easy to get. Just go to my website, vicdecara.com, click into the reading section, select the True Signs Report and any other reports you want to include, and then go ahead and order it. And I'll send it to you within a couple of days. I always find Scorpio very interesting.
And can I say something? Your description was so great. I had nothing to say, like nothing to edit for Sun in Scorpio.
I'm glad because Scorpio gets a lot of attention
A lot.
because most of the people that are into astrology have some stuff in Scorpio.
Yes.
It's almost like self-proving of astrology. You know, like, is astrology real or not? Just look at the fact that all the people that think it's real are Scorpios.
Yes. Or eighth house. Scorpio or eighth house. Yeah.
All right, so the first thing is how you're dealing with secrets. If it's positive, then you're very mysterious. So this is very similar to Cancer. And if it's negative, you're very secretive. Again, very similar with Cancer, which is obvious because we're taking the sun, putting it in a water sign in both cases.
Yes.
To elaborate on mysterious, we said you're conversant with secrets, able to maintain mystery, familiar with the esoteric and occult, and unafraid of taboos.
Yes.
I like that, conversant with secrets. You know things that people don't know. I find a lot of people wish they were positive sun in Scorpios. A truly positive sun in Scorpio knows what's going on behind the scenes. Positive sun in Scorpio deals well with secrets, both in terms of knowing the secret, but also in terms of making sure you don't know the secret
Yes.
that they want to keep. So therefore, they can keep things mysterious. They can keep you trying to find out. They can keep you wanting more information. So it's also a little bit seductive. They can keep you interested in them. And then familiar with the esoteric and occult. That's what we were laughing about before, how many people love astrology from the Scorpio camp.
Yes.
So Sun in Scorpio tends to really just have a natural gravitation towards esoteric things, occult things, spiritual things, psychological things, anything that's not immediately obvious, anything that's a secret.
Right.
And then they're also unafraid of taboos. Taboo is another form of a secret. Don't go there. Well, what's over there? I want to find out. I want to learn what's over there. Why I'm not supposed to go there. I'm not afraid of doing that.
And to add to this, I feel that Scorpio, the way that sun comes in, that light factor comes in, it's selective light. Like it can shed light just on what it wants. Everything else is blacked out. You know, when you get documents from government and some parts are blacked out?
Yeah.
It's like the whole thing's blacked out except the phrase that they want you to see.
Yeah.
That's all you get to see. And then that dealing with taboos, I feel like this is because it's Mars' sign. It's got that courage to go to places where no one else will go.
Yeah. Negative version of it is secretive. Out of touch with reality, but kind of like, you think everything is a secret.
Right.
Out of touch with practical realities, obsessed with secrecy, esoteric, occult, and taboo. So it's the same thing as the positive trait. It's just now it's not working well.
Would you give this the conspiracy-minded person? But I mean, there can always be some truth to some conspiracies, but then really going to the deep end of it.
For sure.
Yes, okay.
They usually don't really know themselves why they believe in this particular secret. Like, if you sit down and you try to rationalize with them the circumference of the earth, the angle of shadows, just to literally prove that the earth is round, it still won't work. It's because they're not really sure why they believe in this secret fact that the earth is actually flat. But the reason, we know, the astrologer knows, the psychologist knows, the reason is that they love secrets.
Right.
So they're putting secrets even where there's no secret.
Right.
And it can be very difficult to have a personal relationship with a person like that too, because you're not lying. You're not trying to hide anything, but they just smirk at you. They know that you're hiding something.
And it's also coming from that defiant part of Scorpio too, right? Defiantly holding on to an idea. And then the sun being of that masculine principle to hold that stance, even though the earth is round.
Yeah. Yeah. And what we mean by like the negative obsession with taboo or the negative obsession with the occult, it's just not practical sometimes. Like, say if the light bulb goes out, I don't need to make a chart, a horary chart about when I should fix it. It's just a light bulb, you just fix it. If your kid is sick, then get some aspirin. If she's got a fever, get some aspirin. You don't have to do like a seance.
Right.
So that's where it gets to be like impractical obsession with esoterica and occult and taboo thing.
Could this also be related to sometimes also when the light goes out, it's just something's wrong with the wire, is not necessarily some mysterious secret thing that's happening? Jumping to the mysterious instead of starting from the practical and problem solving forward till you get to a point where you're like, this is mysterious. I don't know. But it starts at mysterious.
Yeah. Well, let's try to give a feeling of the spectrum between positivity and negativity and what we mean by negative. Like, that kind of a person could be a lot of fun. Or could be very interesting. The person that's like, oh my, the bird just flew by on our right side. That means that tomorrow we'll meet a person coming from the east who's important. That's cool.
Very.
What we mean by a negative version is when it has a negative impact. That's really all that we mean. So negative sun in Scorpio and positive sun in Scorpio, they have the same traits really. They love secrets, they love mysteries, they love hidden things, they love occult meanings, hidden messages. They love that stuff. But a positive sun in Scorpio is deriving a lot of value in their life from that stuff, where a negative sun in Scorpio is just screwing themselves up.
Right.
They can't see the obvious facts that are right there because they're so interpreting everything.
And with the sun, the self being here, the question is maybe, does it empower you to have these secrets and to understand it, or is it actually disempowering your life in some ways and yourself?
Yeah, that's a big deal with Sun Scorpio too. They like empowerment. This is in the second trait, but a lot of times they'll actually shoot themselves in the foot as far as empowerment goes. So yeah, that is the second trait. It's like this self-empowerment, really. So positive Sun in Scorpio is very, very self-determining, whereas negative Sun in Scorpio it's the same trait, self-determining, but it's anti-authority. They're trying to defy the ability of anybody else to determine who they are and what they should do.
Yes.
So for the positive one, self-determining, we said you're unafraid of criticism, conflict, or disagreement. You are unique and individualistic. Some Sun and Scorpio people can be the most interesting people that you ever meet because they do things their way. They think about things their way. They're not a cookie cutter person.
Yes.
And they're not afraid to show other people that they're different.
Right.
But with negative, it becomes like a defiance of the mainstream, where that becomes like the goal in and of itself. Like that punk band, the Sex Pistols. That type of punk rock where it was just hatred. It didn't serve any purpose. It just makes you hate everything even more. I'm not saying all punk rock was like that, but I'm saying like that particular like Sex Pistols era or style of British punk.
God save the Queen.
She ain't no human being.
I forgot. I used to listen to that actually skateboarding era. But as an adult, when you think back, yeah, that's pretty extreme for no reason.
I listened to them too for a couple of minutes.
Couple minutes, you were wiser than I.
Then I got turned on to like other bands that I would say are positive Sun and Scorpio feeling, like other punk bands like The Clash or something.
Yeah, The Clash has a lot of profundity in their music, yeah.
It's not just anger.
No.
So that's the thing with negative Sun and Scorpio. It's like anger towards people that are trying to tell you who you are, anger towards people that are trying to tell you what to do, anger towards people that are trying to tell you the earth is round, or the earth is flat, or the earth is square. Just anger towards people that are trying to define things.
Another language for that people use today, some Sun and Scorpio people thrive on having haters because it allows them to have that feeling of defiance, which is self-defining for them.
So that's probably why they're actually instigating haters.
Yes. Because they can be very provocative sometimes with the things that they say. So it creates that kind of an atmosphere, puts people in their defensive mode too. So then they know how to go at it. So it's always to their advantage in some way.
Yeah, one thing about Sun and Scorpio, whether it's positive or negative, they're not easy to fight.
No.
It's because they have this like disappearing trick. They disappear from one spot and reappear in another spot. Just very difficult to pin down.
Covert.
They're covert.
Yeah.
The final trait of Sun and Scorpio has to do with confidence, because it's, after all, it's Mars' sign, and then the Sun is also confident. So positive Sun in Scorpio is very bold, but negative Sun in Scorpio is very rash. For bold, we wrote self-confident, strong, passionate, deep in feelings, thought, and conviction.
Right.
In a sense, Sun and Scorpio people are often the life of a party. They'll just pop out of nowhere and just start telling all the jokes, because they just have so much energy and they have so much emotional enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
And they aren't wishy-washy either. So like their conversations will always be interesting because they have these strong feelings about whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So bold is a good keyword for that. But the negative version of that is too bold. Like you're rash and opinionated, like so opinionated. Your decision making is emotional. It's very irrational because everything for you is a secret. So if there's no logical path from A to B, it doesn't bother you because you're used to that. Because there's a secret in between A and B. So even in your own thought process, you'll start accepting things that don't have a rational, logical continuum to them.
Right.
And then extreme. They can be very extreme. They can be very dangerous. Risky people. Not just dangerous to other people, but especially dangerous to themselves.
Yes.
They need like very intense experiences to feel alive.
People underestimate, like people usually think Cancer is the most emotional sign, but Scorpio is very emotional and strong emotions. So yeah, when Sun comes here, it can either illuminate the power of emotions, which emotions are very powerful, or that power can just be so overwhelming on the self and on other people, yeah, from an emotional angle.
Comparing Scorpio, Sun and Scorpio, Sun and Cancer, and even Sun and Pisces, they're all the water signs. So you're going to have emotions being an important part of what makes the interpretations.
Mm-hmm.
Cancer is the moon's water sign, so it seems like it should be the most emotional.
Yes.
Whereas Scorpio is Mars's water sign, so people might not understand why it's so emotional. But the thing is, one thing, there's two things, I think. One thing is that the moon is private,
Right.
where Mars is just bold, and Mars is extroverted. Mm-hmm. So whether or not Cancer is more emotional or Scorpio is more emotional, we don't really know. But one thing we do know is you know a lot. You as a person interacting with Scorpio, or you, even as the person interacting with yourself with the sun in Scorpio, you know about your emotions a lot more. Your emotions are a lot louder in Scorpio. Whereas in Cancer, they're sort of demure. They're sort of like, the emotions are deep, but they're slow. They're deep, but they're kind of sticking within themselves. They're not in a rush to get out and be known. But in Scorpio, they're in a rush. The emotions are in a rush to be known. These people, if they love you, they say, I love you. Right. If they hate you, they say, I hate you. Yeah. They're in a rush to say it right away. Yeah. And then Pisces is like somewhere on a different path. It's very emotional, but it's very like in evaluation of the emotions and everything. And it's just evaluating.
Yeah, the way I would describe Cancer is that they're holding space for other people, so that overwhelm's not there. Scorpio pulls you in, and then Pisces has, like you said, this back and forth. Like it's fluctuating, so there you don't feel the intensity, but you don't necessarily know where you are either. But
yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
yeah.
So I'm sure you would love to know what your true signs are and all the different facets and details that the True Signs Report would say about you and your birth chart. That is easy to get. Just go to my website, victorcara.com, click into the reading section, select the True Signs Report and any other reports you want to include, and then go ahead and order it. And I'll send it to you within a couple of days.
So now we're gonna have fun. Sun, fire on top of fire. Let's call the fire department ASAP.
Like he says, fire and fire. So guess what? It's affecting energy. So one way that you. So our keyword for positive sun Sagittarius is growth oriented.
Right.
The growth oriented, we said expansive. They like to grow. They want to get bigger. They want to see bigger things, do bigger things, know bigger things. Ambitious. Big sights, big targets, far off goals. They inspire growth in others. And that's why they're connected with teaching. They inspire the kids or they inspire the student to want to know. They're not like cramming knowledge down their throat or something, or they're not just making them memorize something. They're inspiring this interest or this interest in growth in the student as well. That's why Sun in Sagittarius is a great teacher or a guide or a very good parent. They're good at growing. The kids are growing, right? They're good at raising children.
Illuminating way ahead. That can be very inspiring, future-oriented, what we can achieve, attain. Yeah.
There's a paternal expertise, like showing the way that you can go forward.
Right.
Versus negative Sun in Sagittarius, which is hungry.
Yeah, because I asked you, yeah. In the edits, I was like, can you explain hunger? Yeah.
So I say, yeah, the reason for hunger is corruption of the growth potential. This is what I wrote back to you. I mentioned Jim Morrison or Connie Francis. Connie Francis was a singer from my grandmother's era. She went from being very typically model type beautiful to just being very, very overweight, which is one of the issues here with growth orientation. You can just grow too much. Your body can get out of, that's what I wrote, fluctuations in body weight. Jim Morrison also used big fluctuations of body weight. When the Doors first started, he was this muscular looking, but take a look at their last album, LA Woman, he's this big fat guy with a beard. So yeah, hungry, the problem is it's just too much metabolism. The one effect of that is no matter how much you eat, you always want more. But it doesn't just have to do with food. Like no matter how much you get, you want more.
Okay.
Discontent with what you have, wanting more. This affects diet and appetite, causing fluctuations in body weight.
So would you say that it's talking about being insatiable? It can't be satiated?
Yes.
So Sag belongs to Jupiter. Jupiter represents space. that expansiveness of space and not having it filled up. So you're just eating to fill up the space. Could it be seen that way too, or no?
Yeah, that's perfect.
And to stretch this, the space is so big, the self, the sun feels so small. You actually have to fill it up to fill the space so that you feel bigger.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you got to become larger than life in Sag with sun there.
Right.
They are the life of things. If you know sun and Sag, some of them are bigger than life.
It would be good to mention what the symbol for Sagittarius is. Originally, it's just a bow and arrow. Sword, you have to be within a couple of feet. But a bow and arrow, you could be hundreds of yards away.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about Sagittarius is it looks really far away. It shoots really far away. It tries to go far.
But the centaur kind of makes sense with this hunger issue with the sun. In a sense, we're talking about human instinct, which is higher consciousness, and the animal instinct. To have that gluttony, let's say, or you just want to eat a lot, that's the animal instinct.
So then the sun is in here. The sun is also kingly, right? I feel like they also fill up the space well in terms of like a crowd or a room. Or table, they sit down at the table, their personality fills I have a good friend with Sun and Sagittarius.
Do they have that feeling?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Okay.
So the second theme is diversity, and it's because Sagittarius is quite diverse, being a dual sign, and also being Jupiter's dual sign. Jupiter is interested in information. So there's this like intellectual diversity, that's an important part of what Sagittarius is. We put the sun here in a positive condition, then you're diverse. But if it's negative, it's the negative implication of being diverse, means you're not focused. You're non-committal. So for diverse, we wrote broad-minded and open to many ideas and approaches, aware of many schools of thought. Like a very classical professor. You know, the difference between a professor and a preacher, like a typical run-of-the-mill preacher knows what they're preaching, but doesn't really know some other religion or doesn't really know what Darwin's theory really is. They just know what they're preaching. Versus a professor knows what they teach, but they also know how it relates to all the other disciplines that are getting taught in the other school and the other, classrooms. And then also what they're teaching is also a very, they teach all about different opinions about a certain thing. So Sagittarius, in a positive way, is very much like a professor. Broad-minded, open to many ideas and approaches, and aware of many schools of thought. So potentially they're also able to synthesize different things and bring something from this teacher or this philosophy or this school of thought or this science and blend it with this other thing over here and come up with this interesting new idea that expands on the previous ideas.
If we said thought leader, would it go under this one or the previous one? Would that be under the growth-oriented part of it, the first positive that we have, or would it go under the second one?
Well, it all depends on the whole picture, the whole thing. But let's say Sun in Sagittarius as a leader is generally a person people follow because they feel this person knows.
Right.
They have the information that I don't have. So they make better decisions than I make. So I'm happy to follow them. But you could also see another twist on it. If you're a leader with Sun in Sagittarius, you might also be a person who manipulates information heavily.
Can you explain that? I'm trying to grapple with that one right.
Your currency is information. The currency of Sagittarius is information.
Right.
So if Sun is here, then a lot of your leadership will work through information. Usually that will mean you're a teacher or a professor, whatever. But maybe you're just a leader, like a government leader. The reason why you're a leader is because of your superior information.
Right.
So if it's in a positive context, that just means that you really have superior information and people appreciate it and they follow you. In a negative context, it means you engineered the fact that you have superior information.
Okay.
So you're controlling the information that people get.
So you're becoming tyrannical with information.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it now. I understand.
So that's, yeah, leadership style would fit in the diversity versus inclusivity polarity. But we didn't bring it up as a main thing, like, oh, you have Sun in Sagittarius, therefore you're an X kind of leader. Because more likely you're not leader, like a president of a country or something. You're more like a great parent, a good teacher, which are literally leaders, but we have other words for them, which are the things that we mentioned. You're good at parenting, good at teaching, good at guiding.
Yes.
Okay, then the negative version of being diverse is you're the jack of all trades. Jack of all trades is okay, but jack of all trades, master of none is the full saying. And that's a very applicable phrase for negative Sun in Sagittarius. Jack of all trades, master of none. The reason is that it's like an ADHD thing again. The hunger for something new comes in too quick. So you haven't even finished eating, but you're already thinking about the next meal. So these kind of people don't really finish their study. They learn like a little bit about this, they learn, and then they stop, and then they learn a little bit about that. Then they learn about it. And then when they try to synthesize it all, it looks like a Frankenstein, and it doesn't really work right.
Right.
But a positive Sagittarius, they learn enough about this, they learn enough about that, they learn enough about the other thing, and when they synthesize it all, it makes something new that works. And that takes all these other things and brings them to like a bigger space.
Can we also say that because of fire on fire and that dual nature of the sign, we have excessive enthusiasm, and that makes them non-committal also?
Yeah.
So they don't want to commit.
Yeah, they don't want to commit. We actually were unwilling to commit because it gets boring too fast. They digest it too fast.
And to be broad-minded, the way that you were talking about it earlier, so you need some sense of freedom to move around between, let's say, topics, right? And what about the sun coming in that's so consistent in a dual sign? Does that become a weakness in this sign or no?
We have cases like Sun in Aries where it's going to tend to be positive. We have cases like Sun in Libra where it's going to tend to be negative. With Sun in Sagittarius, you really just got, like, it's right in the middle, because a fixed planet like the Sun is not really going to do great in a dual sign. However, a fire planet like the Sun is going to do great in a fire sign.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, Sun tends to get along good with Jupiter, who owns Sagittarius. The Sun in Sagittarius interpretation is a little bit, it comes up neutral, and then you have to like pull it, figure out what the positive or negative versions of them are. Whereas planet Sun in other signs, it usually comes up positive, and you pull out the negative variant, or it comes up negative. Like the stock base interpretation might come up negative, and then you figure out the positives.
Hence why we need the report, the true sign report, because you do it. I don't have to do it. You can do the calculations.
Yeah.
Yeah, some signs are truly, with some planets and some signs, it becomes very ambiguous because they have this maybe a neutral dynamic, or something happens that you need to do deep calculation to really know, is this a negative planet in a sign, or is it working the other way?
And our third theme is seeking, like how hungry you are, basically, again. But now it's just in the context of what you're looking for. So in a positive sense, you're a seeker. In a negative sense, you're excessive. You're over-seeking, you're constantly seeking. So for seeker, we just wrote a brief sentence, interested in bringing new things to light. In other words, they seek new things because they want to bring that new stuff to life. They want to teach about the new stuff. They want to share the new stuff. They want to experience and build on the new stuff. So these kind of people, typically, if you say, hey, I read an interesting book the other day, I never heard about this stuff before, they'd be like, really? What? Tell me about it. Well, there's a new movie, blah, blah, blah. Oh, really? Anything new you're interested in, because they want to get more value out of new things. They want to get more information from it. But of course, if that is negative, then it's like excessive. It's almost like the same thing as gaining weight. They're just overeating, they're overeating. But this is like more like ideological overeating or emotional overeating. So for excessive, we wrote difficulty moderating behavior. Again, remember, this is Jim Morrison's. Difficulty moderating behavior, thoughts, emotions, and opinions. Overemphasizing these comes off as arrogance. Maybe I have Jim Morrison too much in my head, but that man was very arrogant.
Was he? I don't know too. I know my knowledge of him is very surface.
Yeah,
But I can't through to the other side. Your mom was, okay.
My mom was a huge fan, so I became a fan as a young kid, and I read his biography and everything. Yeah, he was a very difficult person to get along with because he was very, very self-needy and very excessive and like just ideologically arrogant.
I see. Ideologically, that's very Sag too then.
Yeah, ideologically arrogant. Like this attitude of like they are more intelligent than you.
Okay.
You got a new book? I already read that book. Or I already know about that. I read a book from the guy who I already know more than you. I already know more than you.
Know it all.
Know it all. And then they're really spinning their wheels to become a know-it-all. They're really trying to learn a lot more. They get excessive. Give me more, give me more, give me more, give me more. It affects the feelings too. They just have difficulty moderating their sadness. They have difficulty moderating their disappointment. They have difficulty moderating their ecstasy, like their excitement.
So that larger than life can go in the negative spectrum too.
Yeah.
I see that. Yeah, the arrogance is when this placement's negative is a very prominent feature because it's the sun too, right? I mean, the sun is blinding. When we look outside, if we look directly at it, it's blinding. Now in a fire sign too, wanting more and more. Yeah, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah, and if you're overemphasizing your opinion, that can really feel like arrogance. You might not even think it's arrogance, but you're overemphasizing how you feel, what you think, what your opinion is. This becomes narcissistic or arrogant.
Overasserting the self, making the self larger than life here too, because the sun is the self.
Yeah. So I'm sure you would love to know what your true signs are and all the different facets and details that the True Signs Report would say about you and your birth chart. That is easy to get. Just go to my website, vicdecara.com, click into the reading section, select the True Signs Report and any other reports you want to include, and then go ahead and order it. And I'll send it to you within a couple of days.
What is the story with that? Is it a crocodile? Is it half crocodile, half goat, or is it a goat?
Capricorn, it's a mythical creature. That's why there's so many different versions of what it is.
Yeah, there's so many. Which one do you go with?
It's not like you can go to the zoo and see it. But if you go back to sculpture, I think sculpture is usually anthropologically the best way to get an idea of the imagery people had from a long time ago, because it lasts a long time. Then it looks basically like an alligator, but it's like a super alligator.
You think it's equivalent of a dragon or no?
I mean, maybe that's a similar mythical creature, sea dragon.
Sea dragon. Yeah, I can see that.
The key things about the Capricorn is that it can, which is the same as a crocodile really, it can do equally well on land or in water. And the other thing of the symbol is the bite. The bite is so strong and relentless. If you watch a crocodile fight, they're basically, all they do is, it's like a wrestler. They just grab on and just don't let go. So all those traits there represent Capricorn a lot, that tenacity, brute force, and the ability to adapt and be resourceful. That's the being on land or being in the water. Well, Sun in Capricorn will be interesting because they're both really strong symbols. The sun is like a noble power, and Capricorn is just like a brute force. I would say that is actually the first theme to address with Sun and Capricorn is how powerful you are, how your power works.
Mm-hmm.
And if positive, you cannot be stopped. So we called it irrepressible.
Right.
And if negative, also you cannot be stopped. Yeah, you cannot be stopped, but it doesn't really get along so well with society. So like the positive version of Saturn's power is you can't be stopped. It's great. Right? You can do amazing things. The negative version of it is you can't be stopped. It's not so great. People kind of want you to stop, but you're not stopping. So we actually call that subversive.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is like it means like you're working against the established powers. So that's what I meant. Like the main powers, the main society, they want to stop you, but you can't be stopped. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
And then the way we fleshed it out for the positive, irrepressible, you're able to overcome odds and survive trauma. You rise above and resist oppression, a classical underdog. So yeah, this is a really important trait of any planet in Capricorn doing well, especially the sun, because the sun is your personal power. Odds will not stop you. So like challenges will not stop you, or adversarial situations won't stop you. It's not necessarily like some other kind of combinations in astrology where you don't face adversarial situations, right? Where you're just lucky and things always go your way. It's the sense where you're a fighter and you're good at fighting and you win. So you don't shy away from challenges. You don't shy away from problems. The problems come at you and you beat them.
But I feel like it's not like Mars's fight, it's like wars of attrition. Do you feel that way or no?
What do you mean by attrition? Wars of attrition?
They deplete the enemy. So it's just keep putting pressure on them so they use their resources, that they lose energy, vitality, and then when they're weak, they'll attack.
Definitely, just like a crocodile. In the Bhagavad Purana, there's the story of Gajendra, the elephant, and so the crocodile. I can't remember his name. But there's a fight between the two, the elephant and the crocodile. And the elephant practically dies if it wasn't intervention from Vishnu.
Okay.
And the whole reason is just that the crocodile never let go.
Never let go of the elephant.
Never let go. He just grabbed onto his leg and just kept pulling him slowly further and further into the lake. And that's like the war of attrition is you deplete the enemy because you take a lot of punches and it doesn't faze you. You keep rebounding. You're not shy of pain. You're not shy of being tired. You're not shy of working hard. So you can overcome, right? You can overcome situations that people didn't think were overcomable.
I remember when I was learning astrology from you, one of the words that you emphasized and stuck was being tenacious, like that tenacity of Capricorn.
Yeah, tenacity is such an important keyword for anything related to Saturn.
Right.
And of course, Saturn rules Capricorn. So we said, yeah, able to overcome odds and survive trauma. So it's not like there's not trauma. I mean, Capricorn is not a rosy, it's a muddy sign. It's a swampy sign. Of course, swamps produce lotuses. That's the thing. Swamps produce lotus flowers, which are the most beautiful flowers. So Capricorn can produce the most amazing results, but it's still a swamp. So you produce that lotus out of the mud. So it's like the ability to survive the trauma, the ability to overcome an odd, to rise above. So the sun is like a leader. So it would be a person who overcomes the adversity to their leadership, right? And to their autonomy and to their self-agency.
Do you think that they thrive in having opposition too, because they need to practice that strength that's there?
Maybe because there's always some hints of negativity in it.
Okay, yeah.
There's always going to be some subversive trend in the sun in Capricorn, which will be the trait we discuss next, which will be you're actually seeking an enemy. You're seeking an opponent. You don't feel like yourself if you're not struggling against some oppressor. So in that sense, we kind of invent oppressors. Even when we've already overcome the oppressor, we would feel bored if there wasn't another one to fight against. So we have to like invent the next degree or the next level or the next version of the oppressor.
I know of Capricorn, Sun and Capricorn person, and one specific thing he once said was, "I'm as good as the hate of my haters." And to me, that was just so insane to hear that, but that motivated him. It was, for me, I would crumble, but for him, it was very motivating.
So yeah, like we mentioned, the opposite of irrepressible is subversive.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stop even when there's no need to keep going, you know, or like you just keep working against odds where they're not odds. You keep fighting against enemies that aren't enemies. So the way that we fleshed that one out is we said resistant to leadership. If you say, oh, here's the coach, or here's the teacher, or here's the boss, they assume the position immediately of the person who's going to overthrow this individual, reveal, expose this individual. Overreactive to any flaws in leaders, hierarchies, and traditions. Every tradition has problems. But the negative sun in Capricorn is like, see, it's got a problem. I don't need to take any note of what this religion says because it has this flaw. I don't need to take any note of the value of this cultural pattern because it has these flaws. Of course it has flaws. A wiser thing to do would be to get rid of the flaws and ignore the flaws, or overthrow the flaws, defeat the flaws.
So it's not necessarily rebellious, but it's critical of the system. Because it sounds pretty punk rock, you know? It's just like, yeah, right?
It's pretty punk rock. My band 108 did a record not too long ago. And then I used all the astrological symbols on the album art.
Right.
Like the ones that are in my reports now, the True Signs report and all those, you know, that thing on the front page kind of looks like a pentagram and it has a deity in front of it.
Yeah.
So if you know what the symbols are, you'll see I'm very subversive with it. Like I put Saturn. Saturn was the main one.
Yes.
Like I put, instead of highlighting the sun or Leo like you would usually do, it's kind of like inverting a pentagram or inverting a cross.
Yeah.
So I inverted the whole thing and put Saturn and Venus and Mercury in the highlight position.
You just gave me the opportunity to plug in your book again. Guys, get this book. It's so good. And then when I got this book, I was like, why do they start with Capricorn? You even have done it in this book. Yeah. You're a Cap rising, right? So you got that.
Capricorn, right. So what was it that you mentioned? Like
Rebelliousness. Yeah, punk rock.
Yeah, but the thing is, the way that a positive sun in Capricorn would fight the system would be different than a negative one. They'll both fight the system, right? But the positive sun in Capricorn is like the system is attacking it. And then it's resisting that and breaking it. And then serving as an example for like the rest of the people looking at it like, oh, we can resist the system too. We don't have to be subservient to this bullshit.
Right.
But a negative Saturn is the opposite. It's like going after the system. It's kind of wasting its time and it's wasting its energy, pursuing unnecessary fights.
And Capricorn has to do with the masses too. And Sun has that, the self-individual. So yeah, that would be at odds too all the time.
Yeah, so that's why a positive Sun in Capricorn will wind up serving as an inspiration to the masses. But a negative Sun in Capricorn doesn't get that special mark, doesn't get that special trademark. Then the second one is tenacity. So yeah, the first theme was power, how you're using your power. And then the second one is how tenacious you are. The reason you can't avoid this theme with Sun in Capricorn is because not only is Capricorn all about tenacity, being Saturn and Earth, the Sun is also so tenacious. It just goes at the same pace every day. It just rises on schedule. It sets on schedule. It's always in the same place at the same time on the same day. So the Sun also has that trait, just like Saturn, of being really tenacious. So Sun in Capricorn, you're definitely going to see, it's going to speak about the person's tenacity. If positive, the person is very persistent. If negative, we described as unrelenting.
Right.
So persistent, we fleshed out as strong. Tenacious, enduring, unstoppable. The strong has that specific flavor, the tenacious strength. It's not the strength of like a bomb or an explosion or something. It's the strength of a wrestler It's the strength of somebody that can hold on to something for such a long time.
And this is coming from the earth element too, right?
Yeah, there's those three things. There's the earth element of Capricorn. There's the Saturn rulership of Capricorn. And then there's this presence of the sun in that earth that's ruled by Saturn. All three of them are so tenacious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, strong, persistent, tenacious, enduring. It goes very well with the irrepressible thing that we just discussed. These traits support each other. And then if negative, unrelenting. So this is also pretty similar to subversive. Unrelenting, insensitive to the need for laxity and leeway. Tendency to go too far and overdo it, unaware of when enough is enough. Capricornian types of people often need to be told that laxity, laziness is good. There's a good reason. There's a reason for it. Rest serves a purpose. Relaxation serves a purpose. You can't just keep going full strength all the time because we think we can. Capricorn people think we can. And then the problem here is we're talking about how do you interact with the rest of the world, really. I mean, even if I can keep going at 60 miles an hour for like a week, if my partners can't, then it's insensitive to them and I'm exhausting them to have them try to keep up with me. And then I'm frustrated at them for being late and lazy and everything, but actually they're just normal.
They can become slave drivers.
Yeah, negative sun in Capricorn can really become a slave driver.
No, and that sun factor can actually have the expectation of subserviency from others too. So it can really push and push, and it's tenacious. Just keep pressing, exhaust other people. Yeah.
Unrelentingness also comes out as bluntness, like overdoing things. It's not necessary to be this harsh, or it's not necessary to be this forceful.
Right.
Sensitivity throttle is so far to the right that it blows out most people's sensors before it gets to its red zone.
Let me ask you a question. I think your audience would be interested to know too. This is an earth sign too, and earth is supposed to have some receptivity in it because of the feminine aspect of it. What is happening in Capricorn that there's so much hardness and harshness? Where's this earth element going, this feminine principle in the sign?
The sun in earth signs, the feminine assets of an earth sign aren't going to carry well unless the sun is really positive there.
Right.
But if the sun is negative there, it's going to like dry out the feminine qualities and they're not going to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's not that it's not sensitive. A negative sun in Capricorn, for example, it's so hypersensitive to the flaws in leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hypersensitive to its schedules and its deadlines, and it's wanting things to be on time and wanting things to be done. So it is sensitive, but it just hasn't really directed the sensitivity towards human beings, towards frailty, you know?
Right.
So it's not like the feminine traits went away. They just got kind of applied in not typically feminine ways.
Can we conceptualize it like the lioness and its cubs, the kind of tenacity to fight for it? Would it come from this kind of an earth sign? It's still the mother, but it's like the father in that moment when it comes to the cubs, putting the sun there. So it's like, it's going to fight. It's going to be tenacious and...
Sure. Yeah. All right. So then the third theme of Sun in Capricorn, is now how you're using resources. So your resourcefulness. If it's positive Sun in Capricorn, you're very resourceful. And negative, we'll describe that. Negative resourcefulness is opportunism, or you're very opportunistic. Resourceful, we fleshed out as you're able to succeed without initial assets. So all these traits go very well together because even the first one we talked about, irrepressible, we said a classical underdog. So one of the traits of an underdog is you have to overcome odds. You don't have initial capital. You don't have initial assets. You don't have a good handicap in the beginning of the race. Mm-hmm. But you're resourceful. So you're able to succeed without initial assets, able to use others' wealth and resources to advance your own goals.
Yeah, this is where I posed the question to you. I didn't understand that I was like, can you explain that?
That's a really important one. So let's discuss that. Let me just read the last line too. Even the misfortune of others, like they're becoming sick or needing repairs, brings you profit. Okay, so there's two real things. So the first one that you asked about is, what is this? Able to use others' wealth and resources to advance your own goals. So the trait of Capricorn is poverty.
Mhm.
It's swampy. It's not a well-developed area. But a positive sun in Capricorn has a lot of power because it's the sun in Capricorn. So you get this picture of this power rising out of nowhere, this power rising out of ashes, this power rising out of the mud. So you don't have a lot of resources, but somehow you're going to get powerful. What does that mean? That means you're going to use other people's resources.
Mm.
It's a positive sun in Capricorn. So it's not like you're stealing. If it was negative, then that's what we were describing as opportunism. Like you're taking things from others and stuff like that. But positive is like where you realize, hey, you got money, I don't have money, but I have great ideas. I don't know, you have a house, I don't have a house, I need a place to stay, but I can really cook. You want me to stay there and I'll cook everything? So it's like the positive sun in Capricorn finds a way to get in to use the resources of other people. Not by exploiting the other people, but in a positive way, but it winds up really, therefore, getting resources that it needs.
So it's still so it's still maintaining that down to earth kind of quality that's in Capricorn. It's almost like a barter. I'll help you if you help me type of thing.
So we could also contrast this with the negative trait to find out what the negative version of this is too, because the sun has this tendency to be royal.
Mm-hmm.
Sun kind of has this trait of hating to ask for directions or hating to ask for help. If the sun does that when it's in Capricorn, it's going to suffer. If the sun acts like that in Capricorn, it's going to suffer because it's in Capricorn, it's a swamp. It doesn't have assets.
Mm-hmm.
So if the sun is positive in Capricorn, it's going to realize, there's nothing wrong with begging. If it's going to make me grow, if it's going to make me stronger, there's nothing wrong with being humble. There's nothing wrong with cooperating. There's nothing wrong with admitting that I need help.
Right.
So Sun in Capricorn positively has that ability to say, yeah, I need help. Can you help me?
Mm-hmm.
It will help you too. I'll promise I'll help you too if you help me. It's still the sun. It's not like, I need help, give me help. Just feed me, give me food stamps for the rest of my life. It's not like that. It's like, give me help. I need help and I'll work for you. We'll make this work. Here's a plan. Here's a program. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but the negative sun in Capricorn is like, that's beneath me. I'm not going to beg for this and that. So they wind up actually kind of stealing.
So when it's positive, we can give it that cliche saying of rags to riches. They know how to work their way up. Okay.
And then this other one, even the misfortunes of others brings you profit. So this is one trait of Sun in Capricorn is you become a king in the swamp. This can be good for people, doctors, automobile repair people, even counselors, psychologists. It can add to any of that. It can give you power for any of that kind of career where you need to be in a mess.
I see.
To be able to show that you have value. You have value in a mess. That's the Sun in Capricorn.
Okay.
And people are working in ambulance, firefighters, anybody that's going into a situation where other people are in distress.
So why is that under the negative then?
No, that's positive.
I see. Okay.
Want to jump to negative now, though?
Sure.
So negative was just opportunistic, appropriating the partners and assets of others. Doesn't really recognize mine and not mine. Mm-hmm. And sociologically, this is just a truth that's unavoidable. That problem only comes up when people don't have a lot of mine. People that have a lot of mine, it's much easier for them to recognize this is mine and that's not mine. Mm-hmm. People that don't have much stuff, you got the stuff that they actually should have, that they need. It actually seems a bit real that stuff that's not mine really is mine. You're making $600,000 a year. I'm making $6 a year. I should have some part of that.
Would you describe that as a sense of entitlement, like false entitlement in that way?
Yeah, maybe. No? Maybe because it's the sun. Because sun is so like royal. So it'll feel like that should be mine. That is mine.
Right.
That's what we meant by opportunistic. It's like using the resources of others. But it's not in a positive way here. It's just appropriating the resources of others, not just physical resources, but taking their emotional and relational resources. That's your girlfriend, that's your boyfriend, I don't care.
That's kind of ruthless.
Yeah, ruthless. Capricorn is ruthless. It's a crocodile. The thing about this, the excelling in a swamp, excelling in a mess, you tend to create messes. You tend to create the messes because there you feel like you're more powerful.
I was just going to ask literal, like physical mess or mess up people's lives.
A positive Capricorn in any way, the person does really good with dirtiness. So like they get rid of dirtiness, they keep it in check, they keep it organized. Negative Capricorn in any way, they're just too comfortable being dirty.
Saturn's dirty too as the ruler.
Dirty.
Right.
So but mainly what I meant about creating a mess is they kind of wreck situations. And then they present themselves as like the person that can help, even though they were the person that caused the problem.
I remember I was asking you a question when we were doing the editing. I was asking you, could this placement also gain power from the masses?
I think it does get powerful. Oh, does it get power from the masses?
Yeah, from the masses, because of this taking component that's there, and it can ruthlessly take. And the sign of Capricorn represents the masses, and then Sun got that rulership quality.
The main thing that a positive Sun in Capricorn is doing is serving as like an inspiration to the man.
Mm-hmm.
This person could overcome these odds. This person could defy these oppressions. So could I. Let's be like that person. Let's join up with that. So let's be like that person means let's join that person. So by serving as an inspiration to the masses, you also team up with the masses, and then you can say you're getting power from the masses. The negative one is, I think, draining from the masses.
Right.
So I'm sure you would love to know what your true signs are and all the different facets and details that the True Signs report would say about you and your birth chart. That is easy to get. Just go to my website, victorcara.com, click into the reading section, select the True Signs report and any other reports you want to include, and then go ahead and order it. And I'll send it to you within a couple of days.
The water bearer.
The water bearer. Just to think about it, I mean, Aquarius is the water bearer. What's a water bearer? The water bearer is the waiters, the waitresses. In modern terms, Aquarius is the waiter or the waitress. It's just like your basic service industry person. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking down about that, but now you put the sun in that. Mm-hmm. Where the sun is the opposite. The sun is this really elite, royal leader. So it's this weird sun in Aquarius is this awkward contrast.
So we have the servant and the king mushed up into one concept.
Yeah, that's a very simple way to put it. You're putting the servant and the king together, and what's going to happen when you put those two ingredients in the same soup? Mm-hmm. So the first thing it's going to do is affect your ego. If positive, then your personality is very gracious, and if negative, you're very negative towards the self, very self-negative. Mm-hmm. And what we mean by gracious, we wrote non-egotistical, inclined to see the good in others. If the sun is positive in Aquarius, then the king has appreciated the servant and adopts the qualities of the servant. So then now imagine if somebody who has the qualifications to be a king acts like a servant. That servant's going to be great. Able to do anything, so reliable, so competent, able to carry any load. So that's the quality of positive sun in Aquarius. It's this fantastic attitude towards service.
Right.
It comes across as being very gracious, very willing to do things for people, very happy to do things for people, and very competent in doing things for people. Not egotistical, meaning like you don't demand any kind of respect, any kind of attention. You're very comfortable being unseen.
Right.
They don't feel underappreciated. They're happy appreciating other people. They like to see good in other people. That's also quite interesting. It's hard to serve somebody that you don't like. So since the sun in Aquarius is very good with service, it tends to like people. It tends to see good things in others. oh, this is a worthy character. This is a worthy person. I should do something. I should serve them. I should help them. I should assist them.
That's the true definition of what it means to sincerely and genuinely be humble.
Yeah.
I was just thinking because of there's no pretentiousness. Like the person can sit and break bread with someone who's in a state of poverty or sit with royalty and they're still the same person.
Yeah, this is a good time to mention that. It's a good topic for Sun in Aquarius. Humbleness. Humility doesn't mean that you don't like yourself. Actually, that's a trait of humility. It has nothing to do with yourself is not the focus. There's a universal difference between self-negativity and humility. In self-negativity, the self is the focus. You just feel awful about yourself and you can't get that off your mind. But humility has no self-negativity. It's just full of appreciation for others and concern for others. It's like a waiter. That's when you get really into the waiting, you don't notice how tired your feet are. You don't notice how your back hurts or anything. You're busy carrying food to people and taking orders and stuff, and you care because you care about that, and you care about serving these people. Your attention is not on your personal issues. Sometimes people think that you have to think poorly of yourself to think highly of others, which is nothing. There's no logic to that at all.
Yeah, that was beautifully said. Yeah.
And in fact, if you think poorly of yourself, you probably can't do very much for other people. A good servant tries to be healthy. A good servant tries to be strong. A good servant tries to be happy because that helps them be a good servant. So actually, in real humility, there's no self-loathing or self-depreciation. But in the negative trait of Sun in Capricorn, that's exactly what it is. I mean, Sun in Aquarius. The negative trait of Sun in Aquarius is exactly that. It's just self-obsessed in a negative way. So we said, inclined to see the bad in yourself. So it's the opposite of inclined to see the good in others. And somewhere or another, I've been seeing interviews with kids where they say that they get very stressed out because, like in school, for example, there's so many other kids around and you constantly compare yourself with them. This person got a 94 on this test and I only got an 82. This person did 23 push-ups in the gym class, I only did 13. You know, this person has bigger boobs than me, I have smaller boobs. This person has bigger muscles, I have smaller muscles. All these things, and you're constantly comparing. And that's what they say really stresses them out.
Mm-hmm.
The Sun in Aquarius is focusing its identity on other people, period. Because the ego planet has gone into the non-ego space. But if it's positive there, it gets a lot of benefit by focusing on the other people. It sees the good in other people, and it wants to interact with them, it wants to contribute with that. Negative version is it just sees other people. It sees the good in other people still, right? But what that doesn't make it feel good, that makes it feel crappy. It makes it feel like very weak and miserable by contrast.
And Saturn has to do with poverty, so this can be like poverty mindset, scarcity mindset, lack of worthiness, self-worth.
Then there's nothing worse to be depressed about than yourself. Mm-hmm. There's nothing worse to be, because you can't get away from yourself at any moment.
That is so true, yeah.
So that can be really bad. That's why Aquarius is opposite from Leo in the zodiac. Because it can be pretty bad to put the Sun in Aquarius if it gets negative there. You can have that very difficult trait of not liking yourself.
Right.
And you'll get that by contrasting yourself with others. So just like the psychologists are trying to do with these kids that on the shows I've been watching, my same advice would be, if you have negative Sun in Aquarius, just kind of realize that you're getting that negative feeling about yourself because you're comparing yourself with other people, but there's no need to compare yourself with other people. It's not like you're in a contest with these other people. Would you want to live in a world where everybody is stupid? Would you want to live in a world where everybody is... Then you would have so much burden. You would have to take care of all these people. You would be the only one that's competent.
It would be terrible, yeah.
Look at it the other way around. Like there's all these other people around you that are better than you at everything. So they can help you. You just find some way to be their water bearer. Do something, whatever you can do for them that will assist them, and then they'll help you.
Yeah, and Aquarius has to do with that group identity too. So kind of having your own identity diffused into other people instead of being at your own center, having your own self-concept.
All right, the second thing Sun in Aquarius affects, or the second, way of looking at it, is your amount of your power, the power that you have. If positive, the Sun in Aquarius is very empowering, and if negative, it's disempowered. So for empowering, we said able to utilize the talent. This is interesting. Able to utilize the talents of others, placing them in positions of power for the benefit of larger teams and groups. You're seeing these good qualities in other people, and you know how to make that benefit everybody, including yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The Sun in Aquarius can be a great leader because it would never take on a responsibility that it's not the best, most qualified for. It would put somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody on that team would be doing the thing they're best at. Not like I have to do everything because I'm the boss.
This is the intelligence of it coming from the air sign too, because they always say intelligent people will get people who are actually more intelligent. Sorry, to be able to get something done, to be able to finish a project. So this is actually a sign of intelligence to do this too.
Yeah. And since the Sun is a leader, it's really using its intelligence on how to run projects. Yeah, and then the negative version of it is disempowered, failing to claim recognition for your accomplishments, adverse to being rewarded or identified. So remember we said like the Sun, a positive Sun in Aquarius is very comfortable not being seen, not being recognized, because it's looking at the other people.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to be the spotlight. It likes to spotlight other people. But if that is negative, that same thing, that same trait can be negative. This is why life is so complicated, because good and bad, it's not like there's two different things that are good and bad. It's just like one thing, and whether you use it well or you don't use it well. That's what makes something good or bad. So the good version of not needing to be seen is, that you can really appreciate other people. The bad version of it is you disempower yourself.
Right.
They did it. They did all the work. They actually wrote the script, but this lazy writer takes the credit.
Yeah.
And they don't even say anything about it. They don't get any royalties. They don't get nothing.
We're seeing the continuity right now, the way that you're speaking about everything, that you were saying that how Capricorn and Aquarius are similar in ancient texts, the way that they're describing them. Because all the infliction in Capricorn is kind of going towards other people. In Aquarius, that same infliction is just coming to the self. It's self-infliction every time it's negative.
Yeah, it's really because the Sun is ego. So Sun in Aquarius, if it's going negative, it can really damage your sense of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is also the thing about a negative Sun in Aquarius. How come they don't get respect? How come they don't get recognized? It's because they don't respect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
A lousy boss will take advantage of the person who's able to be taken advantage of. Predators hunt for prey that are weak. They don't hunt for prey that are strong.
Mm-hmm.
So it's because a negative in Aquarius makes us not really like ourselves that much. Then we just accept when we get treated like crap by other people because we treat ourselves like crap. When somebody else doesn't give us any respect or recognition, that's fine. It seems like it's okay. It seems like it's right. It seems like that's what it's supposed to be. So you have to try to better yourself. If you have a negative Sun in Aquarius, the key thing is really to appreciate yourself, to value yourself more. And then all of a sudden you won't want to just swallow all this garbage that people are forcing down your throat to swallow.
Right. And another thing I've noticed with Sun in Aquarius, they can be self-deprecating to a point that they condition other people not to also treat them well. Because you can do the self-negative talk so much until other people start to respond to you in the same way.
Yeah, definitely. And then the third one is, so this one is like, how useful are you?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really the key thing of the king in the servant's sign, is how useful are you at being of service. So a positive sun in Aquarius is very, very useful, and a negative sun in Aquarius is very servile.
Okay.
So the way we explained that, for useful, we said of significant practical service and use to your partnerships, teams, and groups, humanitarian and charitable.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see a lot of social working people, social workers, socially important people. Maybe these people aren't really easy to Google and find their names because they're sun in Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
But they're the people that really made a difference in society and helped these changes happen.
One question, do you think this loyalty, I mean, this useful component of it is coming from Aquarius's loyalty or no? Because I was just thinking the sun having a loyal quality, this sign, so loyal to a cause, so you'll do anything, you'll serve.
Yeah, I think that's true. They'll be loyal. Whereas the negative version of usefulness is servileness. Exploited for your inclination to serve and assist without significant remuneration or reward, a martyr or superhero complex. So yeah, basically it's the same mechanics going on as disempowerment. Sun in Aquarius in general is happy not to be seen, and it's happy to bring what other people need and do what other people need, which is great. But if it's negative, then it's just giving and giving and giving, and it's getting exploited.
Right.
So we could instead of servile, we could have said exploited, but it's basically the same thing. Like you're put into the servile position in society. And you have this thing that you added was the martyr complex or superhero complex, that kind of becomes your modus operandi. You feel that you should be in that position and you're not yourself if you're not being downtrodden.
But to me, the superhero complex, like when you think about so many superheroes come from that story of disenfranchisement, and so they have this complex that I just got to save the world all the time. The sun being there too, so that's why the imagery was coming to mind.
You always need to be the unseen hero, right? The superhero, the guy behind a mask. And it's just exhausting, and you get no recognition. Nobody knows who you are, and you're just constantly working for other people, and nobody gives a damn about you.
Right. People are just trying to kill you all the time if you're a superhero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the key advice for negative sun in Aquarius still is just like self-love, self-respect. Why not respect yourself? I mean, you're a living example. You're alive. Isn't that enough of something? Your conscious being, isn't that enough of something that deserves respect? It doesn't matter if you have talents or not talents. You're a phenomenal thing that was created by the universe that is self-aware, and like isn't that amazing enough? That type of thing should be respected, not given pain, not denied.
Mm-hmm.
So self-respect first, and then the rest of the problems solve themselves.
Let me ask you a question. Maybe this will go off record. I've heard so many Vedic astrologers calling Aquarius, based on ancient texts, that it's cursed. Really? Do you know what that's about, or is this just like something like?
Yeah, they think it's cursed. They think it's the opposite of the sun. So even I was describing Capricorn and Aquarius, they're like swamps. It's not like a place like a tourist attraction.
Definitely not.
So the people that have those regular materialistic worldviews on life, they're going to think it's a cursed place. Capricorn, Aquarius, it's the southernmost, it's the bottom of the universe. If you look at the ecliptic as a model of the universe, then the Capricorn and Aquarius are in the bottom. It's where all the garbage accumulates. That's why it's a swamp. Mm-hmm. Whereas Leo and Cancer, they're on the top. They're the apex. So wouldn't isn't it blessed to be up at the top, and isn't it cursed to be at the bottom? So in a sense, yeah, okay, this is the cursed area of the zodiac. It doesn't mean that you can't be positive in a cursed place. If the sun is negative in Aquarius, it's really painful. It's really difficult to have self-dislike. But the sun isn't necessarily negative in Capricorn and Aquarius. That's a very superficial view of astrology, that it must be negative in Capricorn or Aquarius. If it's positive in Capricorn and Aquarius, then you're this underdog. You still have a nature of you've dealt with your curses, but you've overcome these curses.
Right.
And you're like the wielder of power that can break curses.
Right.
With Sun in Aquarius positive, it's like you're so good. You're such a good person. Like nobody would be your enemy. You're just so adorable. Like you're so helpful. Why would anybody oppose you? So that's the better way of conquering enemies.
Mm-hmm.
One way of conquering enemies, like Leo would do, is build an army and go out and conquer enemies. But the way that Sun in Aquarius would conquer enemies is nobody would oppose you because you're so helpful to everybody. Why would you oppose the person that's bringing you blankets, bringing you food, bringing you water?
Yeah, I always saw Capricorn and Aquarius as like the bottom of the pyramid, but that's what's holding up the top, but it's necessary, even though it's at the bottom.
People who idolize the top rungs of society will hate Saturn signs. But people that have been at the bottom rungs of society, not that I was, I mean, my parents are middle class, right? But I lived with I like intentionally went to live with the bottom rungs of society. So, and you realize this is a nice place too.
Mm-hmm.
These people are good too. And there's stuff that you can do here there's assets here that aren't in the top rungs of society, and vice versa. There's assets in the top rungs of society that aren't in the bottom rungs of society. So it all comes out to be equal in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just about whether or not your planet is positive in this spot or not. It's not that one place is cursed or not.
I love hearing that.
Thanks for bringing that up.
So I'm sure you would love to know what your true signs are and all the different facets and details that the True Signs report would say about you and your birth chart. That is easy to get. Just go to my website, victorcara.com, click into the reading section, select the True Signs report and any other reports you want to include, and then go ahead and order it. And I'll send it to you within a couple of days.
Like a bowl of fire and like water with a bunch of fish.
All right, so let's see what happens with the Sun in Pisces.
Let's do this.
The first issue is about the depth. It's just because the Sun is so visible. It's the planet actually that just provides visibility. The Sun provides visibility. The light makes things visible. Yet Pisces is very invisible. It's the underwater. It's below the surface of everything. So what happens when you take the very visible planet and put it in a place that deals with things that are below the surface? Well, if it's positive, then you have a lot of light going below the surface. So we describe that as deep. But if it's negative, then your light is lost below the surface. It doesn't come out. So we describe that as obscure.
Right.
For deep, we said insightful, attuned and perceptive of the substance, emotion, and motive behind actions and statements. So here you see a good trait of Sun in Pisces. They have the light is on under the hood. So they are looking at superficial things just like everybody else, but what they're actually sensing is the stuff that's underneath the superficiality. What produced this?
Right.
They'll typically be very attuned to art, because they can really feel what the artist was trying to express.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be very attuned to, so not just art like music or painting, but to acting. They could be very good as actors, or they can be very attuned. They could be good critics, good evaluators of an actor's talent, because they're really attuned to whether these surface actions match the stuff that's underneath.
Intentionality of a thing. They understand it.
Intention. They can sense a person's intentions really well. So you might want to have them in lie detector roles, or the friend that you ask whether is this person being sincere. They're the person that would know. Sun in Pisces knows if you're being sincere or insincere. It's difficult to pull an act in front of a positive sun in Pisces, because they kind of see through the surface and they see down into the inside.
That's because of sun's light and vision, right? Coming into the deep waters of Pisces.
Right. Like, we specifically edit out the flavor of it being an intellectual action. We edited so that that didn't come across that way, because it's not like an intellectual action. They're not like figuring these things out. They just are sensing them. In the same way that we sense a shape or a color, they're sensing a motive or an emotion.
It's more intuitive intuition, picking up pattern recognition, seeing the patterns underneath things, and they're picking that up.
Yeah. Now, if this is negative, then it's not that your light is illuminating beneath the surface, is that your light went beneath the surface. So it's dark now. You know? It's underground. You don't see the sun. It's dark. It's under the water. So we described it as obscure. So these people will be into really obscure things. And that means they're kind of out of touch with the regular world, the visible world, and they're just lost in this imaginary world of imaginary motives and so forth. So we said conspiratorial. Sun in Pisces negative is a big flag, red flag, for conspiratorial outlook on life, where you just imagine motives. Magical, we wrote with question marks, with quotation marks. Like just believing that things can happen without cause and effect. Fantastical, fantasy, that's what I mean. Fantastical means fantasy. Like you're accepting fantasies as reality. Unrealistic, fantastical and unrealistic ideas and logics, quote, logics, out of touch with basic practicalities and realities. So that's the deal with negative sun in Pisces, is it's just so below the surface that it forgets to pay any attention to the surface. So it's so obsessed with trying to sense the motives and trying to sense the inner hidden things that it doesn't realize that the inner hidden things have a direct effect on the visible stuff. So there has to be correlation between the visible reality, there has to be correlation between the logical world and the visible world, with the magical world and with the fantastic world and with the psychic world. If there's no correlation, then it's not real.
Yeah, I feel tends to be a very strong sun in Pisces statement, but then in the positive, like I am feeling, sensing where your intention is. I'm evaluating the patterns. So there's pattern recognition. But when it's obscured, I feel like it is these groups of people who are doing this to the rest of the world. It's just that I feel part of it becomes very legitimate. And it's not real. It's magical thinking almost.
Yeah, if I feel it, then it's real enough.
Yeah, exactly.
The world has kind of catered to this.
A lot. You're being nice. Yes.
There's another thing too, like if the positive, conspiratorial has many aspects to it. It's not just people that believe that there's lizards running the US government. It's also less dramatic than that, less comical than that. Like the positive version of Sun in Pisces is you say it, you make a statement, you say something, and they understand what you really mean, right? The negative version of that is you make a statement and they understand some meaning from it that has nothing to do with what you said.
Right.
So that's conspiratorial. That's another aspect of conspiratorial. It's they're not really paying attention to the actual facts enough. They feel like you meant something, and that's good enough. They're making all these assessments about what you really feel, what you really mean, that aren't accurate. The positive Sun in Pisces makes these really accurate assessments of what people really feel and really mean. Negative Sun in Pisces makes these inaccurate assessments of the same thing.
And all the water signs have something to do with subjective, but I know Moon does 100%, but the water signs too with the subjective perception. So this is like overconfidence on your own subjective interpretation or perception of something too that's actually not accurate.
Yeah.
And there's no willingness to check it. You just take it as truth. The sun's illuminating a so-called truth.
Yeah. I think that's because the sun is so decisive.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
So here, if you're being decisive with these emotional, watery things, yeah, that can be great. If you're really good at it, if it's very positive, then that indicates somebody that's really clear and decisive. And these areas where it's very difficult to be clear and decisive.
Mm-hmm.
But more often than not, then it's just being overly decisive about things. It's using its feelings to make decisions.
So let me ask you a question. We said conspiracy minded in Scorpio too. What would be the difference with Sun in Scorpio conspiracy and Pisces, Sun in Pisces?
It's pretty similar. Like you said, they're both water signs, but the Scorpio just has like a sharpness to it. So I would see like a conspiracy theorist with negative Sun in Scorpio would be more of the person that's like trying to attack.
I see. Okay.
Scorpio is much more passionate and like committed. So they'll be much more vocal about it. Whereas a conspiracy theorist with negative Sun in Pisces would kind of just be more like lost in their thoughts and their daydreams about the possibilities and the potentials of these weird aliens that are controlling the president.
Okay.
The second theme of Sun in Pisces is really your meekness, because you're putting the Sun in a water sign. So it's going to be how good is your bravery dealing with this not a very brave environment.
Mm-hmm.
If it's positive in Pisces, then you're very cautious. And if it's negative, you're very timid. So we'll flesh out the difference. For cautious, we said, make well-informed, mild, balanced, sensitive decisions. You're patient and demure. If your confidence, the Sun, is put into a watery environment in a good sense, then you'll realize you shouldn't be overconfident.
Mm-hmm.
So then you will do things like research. Make sure there is a hotel in the place where you're going. Make sure that you will have the amount of money that you need. Stuff like that. You'll research.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we meant by like well prepared. What did we say? Well informed. Especially Pisces likes information. So they'll be well informed. They want to know a lot about the situations because they want to make sure it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
They make decisions in a balanced way after getting a lot of information, and they make them in a kind of a mild way too. They make them in such a way that it's not 100%. We can go forward with this decision. I made a decision to go this direction, but I realize that there might be some chance that this is not the right way. So I'm making some provisions still to be able to go the other way. They're not very cut and dried, clear, very dramatic decision makers.
And that's coming from the water, that flexibility, adaptability, that would be there too, right?
Water, dual. It's like really the whole recipe. The dualness of the water and the Jupiter rulership. The Jupiter rulership is why the Pisces likes information particularly.
Mm-hmm.
And the dualness of it is making it not really want to close one door.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes through door A because it's positive. It's not negative and it gets stuck and it can't make a decision. It goes through door A, but it doesn't lock door B. Mm-hmm. It might come back and go through door B if it finds out A was not the best way to go. Or it might go a little bit into A and then go into a little bit into B and check out both the waters. It likes to get information about all the options. The more the Sun is positive in Pisces, you got to characterize that as a good thing. And so they're patient and they're demure, by which we mean like they're not very bold, and they're not very assertive, and they don't come across as being very confident. That makes sense?
Yes.
And then the opposite of that, or the negative version of that, is timid. So it's just like when that caution doesn't work well.
Mm-hmm.
So for this one, we said stressed by independent decision making. Having to figure out if you're going to go through door A or door B just stalls a negative Sun in Pisces. Stalls you, and you just sit there and you wonder if it's A or B. You do research on A and B forever.
Indecisiveness.
Indecisive, resistant to coming to conclusions or being involved in commitments. This is hard to get negative Sun in Pisces to commit to even minor things.
And because the Sun is there, this is one thing that I've noticed, even though that is not the native's intention, they can come across as almost being opportunistic. Because just keep waiting to see what could be better, what's next, who's got the better plan. But they're generally just keeping their options open. But the way that they're perceived, it comes that way too. Indecisive, or when it gets really bad, it's opportunistic too.
Yeah. I've noticed that there's a fear, because they have a fear of decisiveness.
Mm-hmm.
So what'll happen is, they'll sit at the crossroads forever and not commit to a decision. Meanwhile, the people around them are all committing to decisions and going forward. And then the people that made the wrong decisions, and then they suffer from the wrong decision, that becomes their rally cry. See, you shouldn't be decisive. See what happens to these people? It's better to be this way. It's better to be indecisive. And then occasionally, just like occasionally by making a decision, you suffer. Also, occasionally by waiting and not making a decision, you prosper. Actually, sometimes it's the right thing to do not to make a decision. So then when they get in those situations, they say, see, you shouldn't make decisions, you shouldn't rush. So they tend to the brain, the amygdala, the portion of the brain tends to program that this behavior is very good. This indecisiveness is very good, and we need to be indecisive and more indecisive. Mm-hmm. But so what's going on there is they're not recognizing that 5 people made a decision and suffered for it, but 95 people made a decision and they're just fine. Right. And, one time you waited and didn't make a decision, and that was the smartest thing you could have possibly done. But the 10 other times, you just missed out on all the opportunities.
That goes to the second negative point that you were talking about to the previous one. It's kind of obscure thinking. It's not being able to put the right patterns together.
Yeah. 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 Amygdala thinking sometimes can. Amygdala is this little portion on the bottom of your brain that just works on fear. Yeah. So sun in a negative in a water sign can mess up the way that functions. So the emotions are just ruling the decisions. Timid. Yeah. So also a sun in Pisces person is just going to seem meek and weak if it's negative. But if it's positive, they're going to seem so knowledgeable, which is weird which might seem weird because it's the sun in Pisces. There's no Mercury involved, right? But it's Jupiter's sign. Mm-hmm. So getting some positive out of one of Jupiter's signs is, wow, you seem like you learned a lot. You have a lot of knowledge.
But that's what's probably also giving them the good pattern recognition, because you just have this depth and breadth of knowledge, so you understand what's happening too. Going back to the first one again, one of the good attributes, yes.
Yeah, I agree. The final thing is how gentle you are. So the second trait was timidity, right? How cautious you are. The third thing is gentle. So it's the whole issue really. There's really 2 issues. One is the sun is going under the surface. So that's either making you obscure or deep in your perception. But then the second thing is this bold, macho sun is going into this, thoughtful, patient, deep Pisces. So what's going to happen to the boldness? So one way we just explored it is in how it affects decision making. But now for the third trait, it's going to affect how it affects expressiveness. Yeah, so we could say that for the third theme. The third theme is expressiveness. Mm-hmm. If positive, then you're very mild in your expressiveness, which is nice. Mm-hmm. And if negative, you don't express. You're just introverted. You have trouble expressing. Okay. So positive, we said gentle, mm-hmm. gracious, affording of attention to others. So the expressiveness is very moderate. It's sensitive. There's sensitivity in the expressiveness. Positive sun in Pisces likes to listen at least as much as it likes to talk. Probably more than it likes to talk. And it's gracious of you. It's gracious towards you. It wants to know your opinions. It wants to share your knowledge. So it puts attention on you. Mm-hmm. But it's not that it's not showing itself. It's just very attentive to other people. So it has a mild way of expressing, and it expresses in a way that helps evoke expressiveness from others. With the therapists, psychological therapists, this is kind of their key quality.
Right. You know who has this placement?
Who?
Rick Rubin.
Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
Interesting, because he's evoking musical expressions.
Right? Yeah, that's all he does. I almost feel like I don't know what his role is, but it feels like he's some sort of a coach that helps musicians express themselves.
Yeah.
So it's this quality exactly that you're talking about.
And he never specialized in one type of music. He did all kinds of really wildly diverse types of music very well, produced them very well.
Yes.
So that's also a trait of Sun in Pisces. It's not very decisive that it just goes into door A or door B, but it spreads out and it has this ability to deal with a whole bunch of options.
Right.
And the negative version of it is introversive, difficulty expressing and sharing the depths of your thought and feeling. The Sun in Pisces is under the water, right? So a lot of the attention is underground in the emotions, not on the surface in the actions. So, but if it's positive, then there's a great ability to connect the surface with the depths. But if the Sun in Pisces is negative, the surface gets lost, and the depths is the only thing that gets highlighted. So how that affects your ability to communicate is you can't really. You get stuck inside. You have no idea how to translate this feeling into an expression. You're not used to interfacing with other people because you're so deeply within yourself. So you don't even really know the mechanism of how people interact. How do they exchange feelings, emotions?
That kind of sounds like a signature that would be like someone who's on a spectrum too, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's the definition of autism. The reason why the word autism was used. Auto, meaning they just get stuck within themselves.
Yeah. But at the same time, some of these people have produced magnificent expressions too.
Because, right? Because the positive version of Sun in Pisces is that you're able to connect that inner world with the outer world. So take somebody like Michelangelo. They do know how to express feelings in ways that are visibly accessible by others. But you take somebody like Einstein. Well, you take somebody like Einstein, right? He has the ability to express some very complicated ideas in these very complicated formats, but he completely lack the social ability to just do basic, interpersonal communications and basic expressions and sharing with other people.
Yeah, his biography is not most glorious in that department.
Yeah.
Well, expression of abstraction, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on Pisces?
No, I think that was pretty deep.
Yeah.
There's a Gemini for you. Had to throw in like a little punchline.
So I'm sure you would love to know what your true signs are and all the different facets and details that the True Signs Report would say about you and your birth chart. That is easy to get. Just go to my website, victorcara.com, click into the reading section, select the True Signs Report and any other reports you want to include, and then go ahead and order it. And I'll send it to you within a couple of days.